these holes that fill the sky open wide, throwing down the ones who try to fly so high, try to fly so high. And when you lose control, come on, let's go. We could find us a place that we can call our own. We could turn this world away just for a day, in a place we can call our own, our own. If these waters freeze over, don't go home. I would slide away with you, with nowhere in mind to go, with nowhere in mind to go. When you lose control, come on, let's go. We could find us a place that we can call our own. We could turn this world away just for a day, in a place we can call our own. When you lose control, come on, let's go. We could find us a place that we can call our own. We could turn this world away just for a day, in a place we can call our own. Stand on that road with cheap snacks and home, right here at the end of all we know. We stand on that road with cheap snacks and home, right here at the end of all we know. $50,000 subscribers. 50,000 subscribers. 50,000 subscribers. Hello. And here you are, all are to join me on the 50,000 subscribers stream. 50,000 subscribe. Hello. How is everyone doing? We got both the chats running. We got people skipping Novara Media to be on this stream. 50,000 subscribers. All right.
What, is Voss streaming as well? Oh no. Yeah, we've got a few things today. I mean, I was making plans for 50K quite a while ago. Like, I didn't expect it to come that quickly. But there are plans. There's going to be a Loner Box Spotify in the works. There's going to be a second channel with live streams and debates and shit. There might be feet pics. Heh, you'll just have to hang around if that's what you're after. And hope to get lucky. 50,000 subscribe. 50,000 subscribe. As for today, on this very special occasion, we have some content. We have some discourse to cover. We will be doing some call-ins. We already have one debate lined up, the contents of which seem to include systemic racism and like trans rights and systemic racism, but in a different question. Yeah, there's a fair bit going on. Wait, what? Oh yeah, okay, crime statistic. Yeah, okay, so that'll be debating Meyer Tusi. Didn't he get kicked off of YouTube? What's happened to him? Is he not like gone already? I just saw that he was crying a bunch in community posts, but I don't know. Hello, Radical Reviewer. Nice to see you here. You're that jaywalking punk anarchist. So what will we do first? Oh god, I don't know. Debates on the discourse TM? Yeah, I don't know. We definitely have discourse. Give you an example. Let's maybe start with some discourse because I want to get it out of the way, especially since I'm not going to really contribute anything apart from to slightly get irritated by other people's arguments. Now, thoughts on Andy Burnham? He's doing he's saying the right things at the moment. Nice accent. Good-looking guy for his age. What can you? As good as Labour can expect. He is a mammal with a head, and if you're the Labour Party, he's a mammal with a head who is not Jeremy Corbyn. And if you're the Labour Party, that's good. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Discourse. Prepare. Like none you've ever seen before. This came up. It's been bombarding my timeline as of everyone's takes on it and all this, etc. Okay. Very little breakdown here. Why won't somebody think of the children? So there was a pride parade. Some guys were dressed like this. There were some kids with there. The kids and the guys who were dressed like this clearly cross paths, them being at the same event. The kid, is like, I think like a way to fucking like pet the guy's chin. I don't know. Seems to be enjoying herself. She's a kid. Doesn't necessarily mean like it's good. So, disclaimer. I am straight. I'm very straight. So, and as well as that, I was away to say I'm not a kinkster, which isn't entirely true, but I'm not this kind of kinkster. So, I don't know. Like, I'm not. This isn't my venue. However, I can comment on a few universal things. First one is, where do we start? First of all, Lauren Southern does not care about this. Things like this, kind of this level of display of sexuality in front of children happens like this. I don't know. I guess in a film in the UK, this would be rated as like 12A, maybe 15. This kind of display of sexuality in front of children happens all the time. It's just that the conservatives stay quiet, or at least aren't as boisterous unless it's gay people doing it. So we know what they're actually pissed off about. My personal belief, I'll just get it out of the way. I think pride parades, if they want to be family friendly, if they expect kids to turn up, which in this case they should have, probably keep it PG. I don't know. That's obviously arbitrary. I think this is probably not PG, right? Not the end of the world. Like, there's a reason there's uproar about this, and it's not because they're dressed up as dogs in leather on their knees. The problem I'm having, though, is the arguments in defense of this, I'm finding just a little bit off, you know, like I can, like, the fact that I just said Lauren Southern and the Quartering and whatever else fucking chud has been complaining about this doesn't actually care, isn't actually an argument in favor of this. You know that, right? You know that Lauren Southern being a hypocrite and a fucking idiot isn't actually an argument in favor of this. I'd like to draw an attention to a tweet for a response, actually, from my good friend, The Surfs. Now, I love The Surfs. Take this in good faith. I should probably, get rid of that section of it, though, eh? Now, hypersexualized imagery used to sell products, which can be seen by children and teenagers, is widely accepted in society. A man wearing leather isn't exclusively sexual, and if you're going to call out that behavior, you should be attacking a much larger issue. Okay. Who's defending this? Everyone that, like, I thought 3 minutes ago, it seemed to be the case that everyone was against this kind of sexualization being portrayed in front of kids, right? Everyone. Until 3 minutes ago, everyone was against this. Now they're saying, like, what's the implication? Like, because this is happening, then I know Surfs is saying you should be attacking much larger issues. So I don't know. Maybe it's like there's a tone issue there. But personally, I think, yeah, well done. You're calling conservatives hypocrites. But as we all know, tu quoque fallacy, being a hypocrite does not make you wrong. You can still be against this and be a massive hypocrite about it, which conservatives are, but not necessarily be wrong that this is maybe not the best thing to do at a pride parade when you're expecting LGBT kids to show up. Because there are LGBT kids, and for a lot of them, this might be like one of the only affirming events that they can go to in a year. Now, that could be an argument for more pride parades, some where you don't expect families to turn up, and others where you do. But again, gay people and LGBT people can also tu quoque. It's all one word. TUQUOQUE, I think. Again, I'm not saying this is the end of the world. Like, fucking kink isn't sexual. It doesn't have to be sexual. If you think kink is like always being sexual, then that's kind of tantamount to the she showed her cleavage, she was asking for it argument, you know? Craig, the Discord. Oh, no. Thank you. No, kink is. I didn't say kink isn't sexual. Sorry, I didn't mean kink isn't sexual. I mean kink doesn't have to always be sexual. Like, these people aren't fucking. Like, they're just. We don't even, like, there are some people who like kink outfits even though their outfits have nothing to do with sex. Like, people like wearing bondage even though it's like they wouldn't do it behind closed doors whilst they're fucking. Like, that's the thing. And yeah, we have these boundaries anyway. Like say like Ann Summers, the fucking shop that sells like dildos and shit. You know, they have their posters on the outside that kids can see, but, you know, probably don't take your kids inside there. So these are like very arbitrary boundaries. And it is quite often the case where I only learned about this recently, and it doesn't happen as often, I think, as people would say, but apparently it is kind of like a bit of a thing where straight people will try to get included in LGBT stuff because they're kinksters, and they like the idea that kink should be included in LGBT identity is like, even if you're straight. I think that's maybe not a good idea. Maybe. Radical review. Yeah, I agree. So that's, and then there's the other like angle to this, because again, I am making this stance as someone who is just like, not LGBT. So yeah, the history of LGBT, and the other thing, history of LGBT liberation, as well as displaying your sexuality proudly in front of conservatives, was that every time conservatives accused you of being something, you wore that. That was your display of pride and like a power move as well, right? So if they called you perverts, you started calling yourselves perverts. If they called you queer, you started calling yourselves queer. They started calling you slurs, you call yourself slurs. Like, this is a bit, yeah, like you wear these like badges because that's like one way that you can kind of express yourself effectively against conservatives. It's just that I think it's possible to be left wing in like every way, but also to be a bit conservative about public displays of kink. Yeah, dog masks. Like, yeah. That's where I am anyway. And again, just saying it as someone who, like, and I will go both ways with this. Like, I don't think this was necessarily appropriate to show to kids either. Fucking Hunchback of Notre Dame. Have you seen that film? Like, there's so much fucking kink in that film. It's about a priest who like tries to kill a traveler because he's horny. It's fucking crazy. And look at this. They put her like, this is a dress. Dresses don't do this. Is this dress made out of fucking spandex? Both ways, I know. Hey. Where was I? And this with the fucking fire and like the really bendy body and all. Like, and that fucking, yeah, like, look at him. He's shitting himself. And that where he's like, basically like sexually harassing her and threatening to kill her and shit. Not good. Not good. Don't know. But that's just me. Maybe I'm just a bit of a prude. I mean, hey, I watched this film loads of times when I was like 7 years old. I turned out fine. But it is absolutely worth pointing out that the people complaining, like most of them, there are some lefties taking a different side about this, but like when you see a conservative complaining about this, it's because it's an excuse to attack gay people. That's it. Anyway. With samba I know, right? Because like in South America, the fucking dancers are sexual as fuck. Even in Muslim countries, like even in Morocco. Or like parts of Lebanon or parts of fucking even in Dubai, like, yeah, you had like, if you went into some restaurants, definitely in Morocco, which is very conservative, and you went into a bar and there were like belly dancers and shit, and yeah, that was like pretty sexualized. They would grab men up out of their chairs, married men sometimes, and like do sexy dances with them and shit. Like, but no one's ever going to tweet about that. And there are kids in those restaurants watching that happen, watching their dad fucking cuck his wife with a belly dancer. I know, right? Well, watching their dad very transparently dream about cucking his wife in a restaurant in front of his kid. If they can do that in Morocco, Radical reviewer, since you're in chat and you're like a smart person, do you think this is okay? Do you think this was like cool for them to do? Stop assuming everyone at Pride is progressive. I know, yeah, yeah. You can be left wing and be very conservative around sex. Left wing and very conservative about sex, yeah. Can't I just think all of this is disgusting and shouldn't be exposed to children? What, like homosexuality in general? Children will see worse than this. Like, in just every child in any society will see worse than this. In fucking Dubai, like, they showed wrestling. Even when all the entire job of a woman in the 90s in wrestling was just to be sexual, to get fucking lap dances and shit. And even though they censored stuff pretty hard. You know the scene in The Lion King where Nala like licks Simba's face and then they fuck? They censored that in Dubai, but they did not censor fucking huge titty women in wrestling giving lap dances to the other wrestlers. That's a true story. I still have it. I still have a VHS of The Lion King where they censor the bit where Nala like licks Simba's face. Yeah. Bro, would you let your daughter pet a stranger that's fully clothed? At a parade? Like what? Like fucking like Disney? Like in Disneyland where you can go and hug fucking Mickey Mouse? Shut the fuck up, no glitching. Fucking idiot. Jesus Christ. Sit on Santa's lap. Is that not sexual? Sitting on someone's lap? I don't fuck's sake. Right. I don't know. Again, just me personally, like if I were to if I was king of the gays or whatever, and I had to choose, shall we make this pride parade that we're expecting a lot of families and kids to turn up at? Should we make it PG or not? I'd say let's make it PG. Yeah, that's just think it's easier, you know? I don't think it's hurting anyone to say that. You know, as far as thresholds go, these guys could have like put some trousers on and been on their feet, you know? Fine. What do I want to do? Do I want to do my call-ins? Do I want to do debates? Whoa. I hereby nominate you. Imagine if they made a straight guy king of the gays. That would be pretty fucking... What is this? I got another paragraph. What the fuck? Should there be a set? I mean, there usually is, right? If there's a pride parade, there are usually pride events going on in the bars and clubs afterwards. At least a couple of which, even in my humble town, are like dedicated to kink and like fetish. Yeah, that is, yeah. So what we have where I'm from is you have the pride stuff and they paint the stairs of like the town square LGBT color, and you know all the corporations put up their signs, and then they have a gig outdoors somewhere, and maybe some of the bars do gigs as well, and then they have their parade, and then afterwards most of the bars and clubs will host like pride events, and like one or two of them will be a specifically fetishist one, yeah. And sometimes that lasts a week or a month or you know just the one or the weekend, you know, yeah. Was it? I think someone just knocked on my door. I think I know what it is as well. Hang on. Whoa! I was holding a parcel. Fuck you guys. Fucking dickheads. Okay. The chair makes some salt. I know. Did I just empty chair all of you guys? By the way, Lorna Box, Pride Parade in North Ulster. Uist? What does that mean? Ulster? What? Got banned by the Hebridean Council. Oh, is that like a fucking Scottish island? Uist. I don't even. How the fuck do you say that? Too many. Too many Hebridean islands. What is the Chud ready? Is the Chud? Are they ready? Are they in the fucking VC? Yeah, we can do a discussion if they're there. Yeah. Okay. Let's do it. What? There are a bunch of people in here. Okay. Just mods, put them in screened when we're ready.
Hello?
Wait, what?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't expect them to put you in here for me, but that's fine. Yeah. How are you
I mean-
doing? First of all, if you
Oh,
want
I'm
to
fine.
state your pronouns for the chat, because they want to know.
I go by she and her and that stuff. If I like cut out something, it's something wrong with my internet. So, I mean, I'm a social democrat, and I think, what I consider a feminist with a twist.
A feminist with a twist. Okay, that
Yeah.
I'm a blank
'cause I-
slate. Hit me up.
What did you say?
I said I'm a blank slate, feminist with a twist. That could be anything. Let's go.
Oh, okay. I'd rather talk about race and crime statistics first.
Okay.
Okay, so my argument here is that I think it has been proven time and time again that institutional racism is pretty much insignificant here in the UK. So, I mean,
Has it?
for example, yeah, and that there's no reason why Black people are committing such high crimes of rape. That's it, really.
Okay.
But-
I'd be interested to see why you think it's been proven that it's not a big issue, because
I mean-
there are, whether or not it's in the criminal justice system or whether or not it's in employment or even in austerity policies, like that Black people are disproportionately effective in all these spheres, and not to mention discrimination in the education system. Yeah, this is like fairly incontrovertible. Like Black people in the UK use drugs at a lower rate than white people, and they are stopped and searched for drugs nearly 10 times more often. So
yeah, I know, and I did agree that there was, some sort of bias in the criminal justice system, but there has been a UK study from the government that has cited that institutional racism is not an issue here in the UK.
the study that
Are
the
you
government,
familiar with
I'm familiar with the study. It's the one where the government commissioned a bunch of people who already believed that there was no systemic racism and already took very vehement positions against it. And then, did you read that study where they're just talking about like the benefits of colonial, like the tangents on it are so fucking weird. That's probably one of the least reliable studies I've ever read in my entire life.
Don't you expect, educators or people of, who do studies to make, hypotheses or a speculation or something like that?
Those people were not qualified. Those people were corporate analysts. And
there were no professors in here. Don't you think a professor that has been through a PhD, which includes researching, would make, hypotheses or speculation? Don't you think?
Professors in what? Wasn't there like,
there
out of 20 of them, one of them was a politics
I think-
graduate. The others were like biologists and physicists and mathematicians and shit. Like,
Again, there were like remember, keep in mind, this is not a big team. So like one professor is enough. And in order for them to make, don't you think like one professor is enough?
No, well, one like that. Like, you can find one professor who will tell you that climate change is a hoax. You'll find that there are professors who will say the Earth is flat. There are professors who will say the moon landing was fake. Like one, no, I tend to when it comes to decisions like this, I tend to go with the broader consensus of the academic community. And when it comes to racism, the broad consensus of the academic community, i.e., the consensus that was completely subverted by this individual government study by people who actually study, who have a history of studying this particular issue, will say that and conclude and show very clear evidence that systemic racism in the UK is still a big issue. It's not as big as it is in other countries, but
don't you think facts are facts no matter who cites them?
facts are
Like facts are
yeah,
no matter
facts
who,
are facts, but the
right?
idea of whether or not systemic racism is an issue in the UK, you don't say that's like just a fact. That's an opinion that's based on
I mean,
certain different
I
types
mean,
of facts.
I mean, reading like so, I think I'll say like 40 or 50% of the study. I think that that they have bought a bunch of studies and how to explain it, and they have made educated guesses in order to make this claim right here. I mean, so what I'm getting at here is that you don't believe this study is, you know, is proof or something like that, right?
Yeah, one study that's commissioned by the government and selected. So here are the qualifications of some of the people. One of them was the person who led it. Let's see, he was from the BBC. So okay, one was a space scientist. One was a CEO of like a department store. One was a police officer. One was a professor of surgery. One was a school superintendent. One was an economist. One was that's probably the closest one I can see as an economist. One was like two CEOs. One was a journalist, and one was like a charity director. These people are not qualified to talk about racism in the UK.
So let's look at this study and tell me what don't you agree with it instead of just looking at the people who write it. Let's critique the study itself.
You want me to read this one study? I can. This is that'd be a pretty boring discussion.
No, I know. Don't read it. Just tell me what part of it that you don't like.
Can you link it to me? It's been I haven't read it in a wee while. I seem to remember there being problems on the very first page, so you can send it to me if you want.
It's in this chamber. I thought you already read it. So
no, I have read it. It's just, but I don't really memorize the issues with every single study.
So you don't remember it, but you still discredit it just like that.
Yeah, because I can remember my like conclusions at the time. Yeah, that's perfectly acceptable. Yeah.
Right.
What? Like, do I have to memorize the contents of every single study? Let's see. Where is that?
No. It's just funny. That's it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad to entertain you. Let's see. Where is the fucking here's a link. All right. Thank you.
I mean that's not my own points, but it's not just that study. It's just that the UK government does do a lot for the UK people, and it does do like benefit system, universal credit system, NHS, all these things that I think could help Black people, but they're not using these resources. I don't know why.
Where do you see that Black people aren't using the NHS or the universal credit system?
If they were, why are they committing such high rates of crime?
Why don't, like, for the same reason that 10 years ago, the biggest crime concentration was in Glasgow, a disproportionately white city. They did not solve it by looking at the race of the perpetrators. They solved it by looking at institutional problems. I don't know if you noticed, but the last 10 years has involved a pretty massive concentration of austerity and defunding of public services disproportionately in Black areas and immigrant areas. So that might be something to do with it.
I don't necessarily. Do you have like a study for that or something like that?
You want me to?
I'm sure that's not the case. I think most.
You want me to provide a study? You want me to provide a study that there was austerity for the last 10 years in the UK?
in the UK, you mean? I mean, sorry. he provided a study that there was austerity in black concentrated areas.
Okay.
I mean, I don't believe that whatsoever. I think black people are mainly concentrated in the South, and the South is just, I think, more richer and more funded and stuff like that compared to the North, at least.
So this is from the UN. Let's see.
Oh, the UN.
Do you not
You're
trust
gonna
the
give me
UN?
the UN. I mean, I trust it. That's fine. If you want to send it,
Oh, I'm sorry. No, maybe I'll find you one that was done
Yeah.
by a corporate CEO, shall I?
No,
Maybe two
no,
corporate
it's fine.
CEOs.
No, it's fine. Facts are facts. No matter who cites it, right?
Well, this is an opinion. This isn't fact. Let's see.
Okay. Could you just send it real quick? If you don't have it, that's fine. But I just want you. If you don't have it, could you just concede
Well, I have
to my
a
point?
I have a Guardian article that links to it. So I mean, if you want that, I can send it to you.
An article.
Yeah, I can't find the link to the actual
that-
report because Guardian are shit for
So
that.
so I cite a study and you cite an article.
Like, not all studies are the same, right? Like some have to be reviewed by peers, some don't. Some can be self-published, some can be commissioned by the government with an agenda,
I highly doubt articles written by journalists are very credible, don't you think?
Compared to what? Compared to a government commissioned
Like,
study
compared-
that involves
sorry, compared-
CEOs
compared-
talking about sociology.
Compared to a group of people, which includes a professor who has a PhD, basically. But like, again, don't you think that mine is more credible than one cited by a journalist, something?
No.
How so?
No,
I mean,
no.
I-
Like, no. What? Is that like, yeah, what professors in surgery talking about systemic racism? Yeah. I don't think I have to cross a very high threshold to discredit that. Again, I told you, you can send me the government study if you want me to go over that one instead. It's just, that would be a kind of boring discussion.
I sent it. Oh, I know it's a boring discussion. That's why I thought that.
By the way, wait,
had it in
you
your memory or something like that.
conceded that there was systemic racism, at least in the police force, didn't you?
Let me think. Did I say that in the criminal? Yeah, I think I said that, but it's
Okay.
insignificant. I think that's what I said. But like, so what could you explain to me why they're committing crime? I mean, I'm ready to listen.
Why are they committing crime? Well, one of the best predictors of crime is poverty and urbanization, and black people in the UK are disproportionately poor and urbanized. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Why they're poor? Sure.
why are they poor?
I mean, you can explain that why Black Americans are poor, but you can't really explain it why UK Americans.
Yeah,
sorry,
but so
UK Black.
for as long as black people have existed in the UK, at least en masse, say from the Windrush generation onwards, they came here and were excluded from certain jobs by like trade unions worked to keep them out of higher paying jobs. They were excluded from large sectors of employment. They were even actually excluded by the welfare systems in some circumstances for fear of them having AIDS and shit like that. So yeah, that's like
1 second. Most of the Black people that have immigrated here are from Africa, and the section of Black people who commits the most crime are from Africa as well. So they haven't. So like sorry, how do I put this into words? They haven't been in the UK that long, so they can't really be affected by generational income or something like that.
well, you're talking about the majority, like you're talking about black people as a whole.
No, sir.
but
Yeah,
again,
like
if you come
black
if you
people,
come here as an
you're
immigrant, you're not
Canadian.
going to have the same generational wealth as someone who lives here and as
Right,
well as not being treated.
No, what you're
appropriately by
saying,
the-
no, what you just said to me is that the reason why Black people are poor is because of the Windrush generation who came here and things like that. But they came. You're right, correct.
As well as
Right.
migrants like from Africa around the same time.
Right, correct. But like, 1 second.
Isn't it the case that immigrants
I
in
need
the
to
UK
find-
commit less crime though? If we're talking immigrants?
No, that's not the fact. Let me send you the link real quick. Okay, where should I post it? Should I send it in DMs?
You can
something?
DM it, that's fine.
There, it's actually Africans committing most of the crime compared to like in like if you categorize black people into Africans and Caribbeans, you see the bar that Africans are way higher than the
Yeah, and I've
Caribbeans.
said this is to do with poverty, which is to do with a history of
Yeah,
employment discrimination and the discrimination in the education system. Yeah.
but how? What? That doesn't make sense. But I mean,
Wait, why does not? Why does that?
I
What
rather
part of
move
what I
on.
just said doesn't make
I
sense?
rather not keep you. I rather not keep this going on. So I rather move on to another topic.
No, wait. What part of what I said doesn't make sense?
That what you're suggesting to me is that the reason why black people are poor is because of generational something, right?
Not just generational. This is like a long, as in this is an ongoing trend of employer discrimination and, employer discrimination
Can I?
against black
Can I?
people in the UK.
I'm not saying I don't. I'm not saying I don't believe you. But what do you mean by employment discrimination?
What I mean by employment discrimination, I mean
Yeah,
that
yeah.
for the last, I don't know, 60, 70 years, there's been evidence of trade unions actively colluding with bosses to keep black people out of entire employment sectors. That's going to
So
affect the
is
wealth
that
of
it?
black people who live here.
Is that it?
That's one off the top of my head. Yeah.
Okay. Can I have one more, just real quick?
What do you mean one more?
Like one more of employment discrimination, things like that. And I don't
Yeah,
think
people
unit.
with foreign
Also,
names are more likely to have their CVs turned
also,
over than people with local
I don't
names.
think unions. I don't think units are employment something like that, right? I don't think
Yeah,
you
no,
get
there has been, yes, there is quite a lot of that. I've done a video about this. Yeah, this is like one of my sources for one of my
right.
videos.
Okay,
Yeah.
you can continue. I didn't hear what you said. I cut you off there. Sorry.
No, I said like that thing about unions colluding to keep black people out of certain employment
No,
sectors.
no, you
That's
said something about names or something like that.
oh
I didn't
yeah,
hear
people
that.
with foreign names are more likely to have their CVs turned over than people with local names, and that's been the same rate since the
Did that
1960s.
did that test that for African names?
I think it tested for. Let me find it.
I mean, but because West African names tend to be English names, for example,
Okay.
Destiny or things like that.
Well, you know that
Because West
wait,
Africa is mainly
wait.
Christian.
Looking at names is an indicator that they have a racial bias. If they see the interviewee, so you use the study with the names to come to a suggestion that there's a racial bias in employment. And then
I mean,
you can infer that that racial bias will extend to them seeing a black person with a British name.
do you consider a foreign name a name that isn't English, right?
Sorry?
Do you consider a foreign name a name that isn't English?
Well, you distinguish between names that are typically British and names that come from other countries. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So West Africans tend to have English names.
But the
right?
point in the study is not to say whether they're discriminating against the name. The inference from the study is that if they're more likely to turn over foreign names, that means they're more likely to turn over people who are not.
Yeah. I think no. So if what I'm
native
saying
British.
is that if Western Africans tend to not have, foreign names, this shows that they can't be discriminated based on those foreign
Why
names.
do you
itself, right?
think? So let's go to foreign names. Why do you think foreign names are turned over? CVs with foreign names are more likely to be turned over than they are for people with British names. Why do you think that is?
Because they think they're not British.
And do you
right?
so do you think they're going to see a black person come into an interview and draw the line and say, "Oh well, they've got their name's Samuel, I guess, so I can't. There's no possible way that my consciousness is going to discriminate against this person." What the fuck are you talking about? Let's get to the next point.
I don't think you're. Wait, 1 second. I don't think you're understanding my point here. I'm saying is that.
No, I understand your point. You can't understand the difference between.
No. I'm saying here is that if Western Africans are having these non-foreign names, so the likelihood of them being rejected on application based on your study is very minimal. So they have.
Why do you think it's minimal? It's at a rate that hasn't changed since the 1960s.
Because they don't have the foreign name. Because they don't have the foreign name. That's why they're more likely to be accepted into job employment, right?
The use of the use of names is used as the indicator that there is racial discrimination.
So is it fair to say that Western Africans are discriminated based on in unemployment?
Well, I'm just going to assume that an employer doesn't just see someone's name when they're considering someone for a job. They're probably going to see what that person looks like. And if they're more likely to turn over people with foreign names, that's going to suggest that they have a tendency to discriminate against foreigners.
I
And
don't
if
think.
they see a
I
black
mean,
person,
rather,
whether or not their name is Stephen or not, they're going to discriminate against them based on their
I
appearance
I
as well
hope.
as their name.
I think you're failing to see my argument, but I think we should move on because I'm not good with time here. I'd like to talk about what was the other topic?
I think
I
it was
think
trans people, wasn't it?
yeah, I think trans people, and I have just two questions of socialism. I think I'll keep that at the end.
Oh, I've got a study for you here, by the way. Sorry. From the LSE, so people who are actually qualified to talk about the things they're talking about. Ethnic minorities are less likely to find good work than their white British counterparts, even when born and educated in the UK. There we go. That took like 3 seconds. Although the patter was
Can I-
interesting anyway. There you go.
Uh, can I ask?
It's okay though, because
Can I
the
just quickly
corporate
ask-
CEO agrees, don't they? I know. Go on.
One question.
Yeah.
Did they? Yeah. How did they measure it? Like, did
I'm
they
sorry.
take
Are you qualified to like
names? They take
are you qualified to read these graphs and to
pictures? How did they?
are you qualified to read
Okay,
these
so I want to
graphs?
move on to trans people right now. Right. My position
Okay.
on trans people is that I do believe gender is a social construct, and I do believe that sex is bimodal. However, I do think that probably cut off there.
Yeah, you did cut out, Dragon. You said that you agree that gender is a social construct and bimodal. But yeah, you can go on.
Hello?
I guess while you're sorting your internet, I can find out. Department of Work and Pensions.
Oh, okay, sorry, my bad. You were cutting
Tell you what, disconnect the call and come back in.
off, so I didn't hear what. Do you
I'll do that for you.
believe that social constructs hold importance to individuals?
What was the question?
Hello, can you hear me now? Hello?
I think you're back now, yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
You should probably disconnect from the call and then come back in. I'll do it for you. Hang on. Oh, are they going to see this? Come on.
Hello? Is it better now?
Yeah, that seems better.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I'm poor. What was I saying? Do you think social constructs hold importance to individuals or communities, for that sake?
Do I think social constructs hold importance to individuals?
Yeah, and communities.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right. So, do you think people can just invite themselves into social constructs just because they feel like it?
No, not because they feel like it, because they identify with that social construct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like people
I
don't.
mean, yeah, sure.
Yeah, like it depending on the social construct, like yeah. But if
I mean,
I assume you mean if someone identifies as a woman, they're not doing it because they feel like it. It's because it's not like,
do you
oh,
think-
what am I going to do for fun
think if
today?
Do you think if like a white guy felt black, he can just identify as black and behave, go into black communities and call himself white? I mean, sorry, black.
That's a very, very complex question. Would you like me to answer it anyway? Although it might take
Sure.
a minute. So
Sure.
all social constructs are arbitrary, right? We decide what they are, where the boundaries are, etc. And often we don't really come up with any of these concepts unless they provide some kind of social use, right? So the reason that we recognize something like being transgender is because there are quite a lot of people, it turns out, like millions and millions of people who display levels of massive personal pain when they aren't allowed to identify in the way that they themselves identify. And so there is a social utility to the concept of transgenderism or non-binary, et cetera, I have yet to see any evidence at all that there is a similar situation for transracialism. The only utility I've ever seen anyone gain out of transracialism is so they can think they're being smart in an argument, which I don't
No, I
think
think
crosses the
I
necessary
just
threshold to
I
allow
just
it to
think
be
there is
an accepted
yeah, I
construct.
just think there isn't much funding into that particular area. For example, if you went back 60, 70 years ago, there wasn't much funding into understanding what trans humans are and what trans people believe. So
Hmm.
that's why I think transracialism isn't well understand here. But however, where I think here is that I think that trans people are like invading women's spaces basically. I feel like they just slap on a wig and call themselves women without going into like, without how do I put this into words, without taking into consideration of the real woman.
Wait, but trans women are real women. What's a woman
I
to
mean
you?
you can I mean you can believe that. I mean that's fine. We all have opinions. You can
But you said
believe
gender is a
a
social
woman.
construct. So isn't it, if it's social, then
Yeah,
we
I don't
decide.
believe that. Yeah, I know. Not yeah, we decide. So I can decide this is not. You can decide this is
Oh
it.
well, it's a good thing you guys are losing then.
Mhm.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
no, no,
so
no.
happy.
Well, actually, in the world, like if you speak globally, we can. Most people don't think trans people.
Okay,
Sorry,
well,
trans
I'm glad
women.
uh, that you're taking some kind of solace in the fact that Saudi Arabia and like China are on your side on this. But no,
Again,
I'm actually quite sorry.
China has 1 billion people. India has 1 billion people. So, like, I can say the majority of the world do not believe these
Yeah,
people who
and fuck being like those guys. You know, I think invading women's spaces. This does not happen. No woman like people. If you feel like you're being invaded, like it's a fucking bathroom. Like what
No,
the
it's
fuck
not
is the
about. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about bathroom.
what spaces?
It's them identifying as women and trying to change usually feminine words. For example, they're trying to change breastfeeding into something else or women into no sorry a woman that is pregnant into birth giver or something like that. So that's what I mean by coming tiptoeing into our spaces and changing the rules how they want
I mean,
because they
that
feel
is just
entitled.
more medically accurate because some cis women can't give birth.
I mean that's a very small minority and
And it's a minority that
and the
exists. Like
most and the most and the
medical
most
accuracy doesn't
and
sacrifice itself on the altar of there are only a few exceptions. Like
sorry I don't understand that.
because just because there's not that many, it's like what, like between 2 to 3% of the population. It's enough people. Like I don't really consider that except. And again,
But don't you think
you're talking about like
don't you think
medicine here and bureaucracy. I don't really
Don't
give
you?
a shit.
Don't you? No, I'm talking about social construct. I don't think 1% of the population should be redefining definitions for, let's say, 50% of the population. That's pretty stupid. Actually, it's 0.5% of the population redefining definitions for 50% of the people and expecting that 50% of the people to just play along with it and when they try and question or could say to themselves, "Hey, I feel uncomfortable about
What
this,"
is
but
the
they
one
call it
particular? So
turf.
what's the one particular instance of invasion where you feel like it's like I don't really see how this hurts anyone though. Like
Right.
how is that gonna like yeah, give me an example of
For
how it actually
example,
hurts you.
sure, how it hurts me.
Yeah. Or or
For,
I guess obviously if it's just you it wouldn't matter. How do you think it hurts the majority of people? In what way?
for example, I think feminism has been through. I'm sorry, not feminism. Women have been through a long battle for centuries to define what a woman is, to take reclaim what being a woman is. It's not just being in the kitchen and stuff like that. And I feel like now that trans people are welcoming themselves in, they are, I think, just
So why? What can what
they
what is it about
stop.
trans
They
women that
are
doesn't make them
they
women
are
though?
they are stopping feminism from going forward.
Okay,
I
so
think
if
I
you
feel like
think,
I
can
feel like this
I?
is wait, can I just say something real quick? I feel like
Yeah.
this is men entitlement. They feel like they can come into, like, they feel like they're dominant in spaces, so they just take over everything basically. That's what I
Do
think
you
they're
think
doing now.
trans men are doing that then? Because
No,
like trans cis
I think
women
men are
can
I
transition
think
to into
men
into trans
I
men and do that.
I think men are uh, are unhappy that, hey, what about feminism? I want to include in this, so they're now converting. They're now slapping on wigs and putting on lipsticks and thinking they're women. So
Okay,
I
okay,
think
okay, okay. I have a question for you then. You said that because that the majority should not adjust their definitions to satisfy 1% of the population. Yeah?
yeah,
So
yeah,
a majority of people in this country on Turf Island supports trans identification rights. A majority. So why should we, the majority who supports trans identification rights, have to bend over because you and the very small
I think
minority of self-proclaimed
wait,
feminists and who are not
I
feminists, by the
think
way, why should we
I
bow to
think
your whims then?
if I'm correct, I think LGBT support is on a decline right now. I think, and I think the study you cited, I think it's pretty old. I don't remember something like that. But I think LGBT support is on a declining right now
I
because of
think LGBT support is pretty high in the UK.
no, it's declining. I'm not saying it's high or low. It's
Oh, whether or not,
declining.
hey, whether or not it's declining or not doesn't matter. The majority
Yes,
supports
it
my
shows that.
position.
Yeah, it shows that
So I want to
the
know, why does the majority have to bow to your whims?
I'm sorry, like the
It's
majority.
still
You
the
mean?
case.
Don't you think I should be saying that? Don't you think the why should the minority? Sorry, why should the 50% of the population be bowed down to 0.5% of the population who just think they're women?
The general population in the UK, the majority, in 2020 from YouGov, by the way.
You go.
Yeah, from YouGov, the majority of people actually support for
Actually,
trans
doesn't
people, support
what's
for
the
trans
sample size?
representation is concentrated amongst women. It's men. Men are the
What's
ones who
the
are against trans
what's
identification.
the what's the sample size?
You want the sample size from you? Okay, come on, you're trolling now. Go on.
No,
Like,
just no
you
no
want
no
the
no no.
sample
What do you
size.
think? What's the sample
You are
size? If it's
so
like if it's a
desperately
hundred
clinging. You are
if it's 100
desperate.
people,
Just to
again, if
don't think
it's
I don't know
look,
this little
hey, hey,
fucking.
hey, 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 if it's 100 people saying, hey, I support these transhumans, don't you think is not a great
Do you
representative of
think
the
YouGov
UK
are not a
population? So
trustworthy
just so
source?
okay, so no, I think it's trustworthy. I'm just asking, what is the sample size? That's it.
I don't
What
know.
is
I
the
don't know the
sample
sample size.
size? Of course you don't know. So how can you say that this applies to the rest of the population?
What? Because they didn't ask all. What would the what kind of sample size would you like? What would the
No,
minimum
like
be?
no, just enough. I'll
You
say
don't even
maybe.
have an exact
No,
number for the minimum sample
sure.
size?
I'll say maybe 20,000 or 30,000, something like that.
You think they should ask 20 or 30,000? Which one?
Yeah.
What if they asked
Sorry.
19,999? Would that not be a big enough sample size for you?
I'll say I think in the when talking about research, I think when talking about populations, I think there's a threshold. I think there were like 30,000 or something like that. I'm not sure. Like,
You're not
for
even
example,
sure what the exact
no,
sample size. Why the fuck am I listening to your authority on this?
no, I'm saying that when researching, I think researchers tend to start at a sample size at 30,000 onwards. So I'm pretty confident in saying that. So
So
yeah,
you just don't
that's what
most research then?
that's what I've seen in a very reputable, peer-reviewed studies, that when talking about the general population, they tend to have 30,000 or more people, intervene or something like that.
What they said
So
that,
that,
okay, do you have, I don't know if I want to see a source for the fact that you can't make a claim without a sample size of 20 or 30,000 people. That's a 10,000 person margin. What the
no.
fuck are you talking
So
about?
I mean, I just want to move on from this point,
Oh, yeah,
but
that's a
just tell
really
me,
boring
just
point you just made.
yeah,
Yeah, go on, let's go
yeah,
on.
it just yeah. So just tell me, what is the time sample size? That's it. What is the
I
sample
don't know
size?
the
And
sample size. It's a fucking YouGov poll. Like,
so how can you make the claim that this is a great representation of the general population?
it's from the most reputable polling agency in the entire country.
Um,
Okay, come
okay,
on. We know you're clinging. We know you're grasping at straws.
I
We
need
know that you
one
can't
second.
handle
I
the
need to
fact that the majority disagrees
let me
with
get a
you.
study real quick. Yeah,
Apparently, the sample
yeah,
size was 1,688.
only 1,000 in a country of
And
64 million.
yeah, you know, you don't
I
actually need to get that many people to get an accurate representation of polling. These are the same people who predict like general elections with a tremendous accuracy, like every time. So I don't really know why you're laughing.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna ask the last two questions.
Please do.
Uh, what was them? I think one is about socialism. I think
Oh
if I can
no,
remember the question is no, it's just quick. I am a social democrat. Just for
I can
yeah, just to
tell.
tell you. But is that an insult?
No,
Oh,
I love social
okay.
democrats.
Are you a social democrat?
I
So I
support their
so
policies, but no, I'm not one
oh,
myself.
okay. So I shouldn't. So maybe I shouldn't be asking a question to you then.
You
Yeah.
can anyway.
Uh,
If we agree,
Are
it's
you,
not a problem.
right. I was about to say is how I don't know how to put this into words so you can understand. How so? What percentage of how will the for example in if the workplace is democratically run, right? How will how do we know that these people that are running sorry these workers who are most likely going to be uneducated or uh poor or something like that, how do we know how could we know that they can run a business smoothly or something like that?
That's a good question. You actually don't need to hypothesize on that at all because worker co-ops have existed for over 200 years and they perform better than privately owned firms. I can tell you in theory why
Right.
that works, but
Mhm.
we don't need the theory. Like we know it works in practice.
Oh, so that's it.
I said I can tell you the
That's it.
theory of why it
Oh,
works as well if you want.
could you just summarize it for a bit?
It's
I am
because
trying to
worker
move to left.
co-op and worker ownership is not the same as worker management. What they're doing when they own is not necessarily something that needs a high level of qualification because they're making informed decisions. They're not making decisions about management and like who should ship this many things and in what period of time. They're not doing that. What they're doing is they're arguing over things that don't actually require high levels of qualification, like pay ratios or key decisions like offshoring. And they tend to use their power in a way to block decisions that would otherwise hurt them, like moving 10,000 jobs to China to cut down on wages. They can say no. You don't need to be highly educated, or I like how you said poor alongside low educated, but yeah, you don't actually need to be that to make those decisions. So I think you might be confusing management with ownership.
Oh, okay. Thanks. That's all I have. I like talking to you.
It was brilliant. Trans rights. Goodbye.
Bye.
That was fun. Fucking hell. What was she only 60? Oh shit. Okay. She was not going to say trans rights. What the fuck? Oh well. Fuck, debating's fun. Can I just like stop making videos and do debates? Should have went harder. Well, hard on a fucking. I don't know. I think I know the rule that you're told is to try and match the other person's energy. I think I definitely did not match her energy. I was a little bit aggressive with the little zoomer. Yeah, can I just stop making videos and do debates? Shit. Should have killed it, I know. I've got donos though. Shit, we gotta look. I don't know why everyone who wants to debate me is a fucking child though. That's so weird. Is that normal? Is that because like they have the courage and like the lack of self-awareness, or like they nothing to lose because you're young? Maybe people are just a bit more like. I really appreciate you all congratulating me on the 50K, by the way. That means a lot to me. Yeah, she did sound nervous, and like the fake laughter and shit, yeah. The YouTube political audience. I know, but not every debater, unless they just hide the fact that they're debating 16-year-olds. Unless like super chat. Whoa, okay, fuck. I've got to go over these. There's enough of them now. Okay. I mean, enough to go over, not enough to. Wait, why the fuck are they not showing up on my YouTube though, bro? Oh, that's why. Let's see. Dave L with the $5. Peer review exists because individual academics are unreliable. True. Fargal Wacko with the $5. New viewer after Vosh watched your criticism. Pogged content, with pogged with capitals. Couldn't leave them out. Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that that went well. I didn't expect him to make an actual uploaded video of it, but definitely. Bro. Joa Di Vita with the $5 and no comment. Thank you very much. Yeah, that whole thing about invading women's space. Yeah, fuck's sake. No one sees it that way. Like, how fucking like disconnected do you have to be to see that as an invasion? Have you ever seen J-Regs? I know, because you have to be a child to enjoy J-Regs. I did not say that. Some of J-Reg is funny, but I don't know. I am definitely too boomer for J-Reg, so the threshold begins like below me. I wonder. I can still do call-ins. I can see. Oh, there's a fucking waiting room. All right. Oh, what? Maybe I'll pull in. No, wait, that's all people that I know. That's all mods. Oh, well. Mr. Spud Nugget with the $50. Pounds. 50 pounds sterling. 50K for 50 pounds for 50K. Yeah. Let's go. Thank you so much. Holy fuck. Wow. Killing me. Yeah, mods are there to check. Yeah, I got you. I got you, Wilk. Don't worry. 50 pounds sterling. Amazing. Lonerbox, honest opinion on Vosh. He's good. What are you talking about? Debate Paul Joseph Watts. Oh no. That would be kind of fun. That fucking government study, though, I need to have a wee look at that. A unionist wanted to debate Northern Ireland. Oh, shit. Oh, no, no, no. I don't know fucking anything about Northern Ireland. Is that responsible platforming? What'd you say? Yeah, no, don't say that. Yeah, shit. If they're a unionist, they must have a bunch of cringe takes, right? Frankie Todd with the $2. Trans rights and end to capitalism. I agree. Ran deep with the £5. Considering her age, I think she was largely just parroting what she reads / watch from UK journalists. Also, congratulations. Also, hear from. Yeah, the thing is, every debate or like even just discussion I've had with an Irish unionist is going to end up with them bringing up some like a bunch of esoteric historical details or about the internal makeup of Ireland that makes Irish unity not possible. Like, no, I'm not going into that. But if they're a unionist, they can argue with me over Scottish independence. That might be a thing. But no. 1690 will be mentioned at least 20 times. I know. What can you do? God, the donos. What the fuck? I'm gonna need to start working for my buck here. Do I support Scottish independence? Yeah, of course it should. Think I'm fucking stupid? Ben McComb with I was gonna say Ben McBomb because with the £10. Thank you so much. Congrats on the 50k. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I think someone was saying that a good friend of the stream, Meyer Tuzi, is no longer on YouTube. That could be interesting. So you're going to complain about censorship, and I'm going to be doing another segment on censorship. Hang on. I want to find out what this unionist... no. They want to talk about Northern Ireland. What are my thoughts on channels that aren't normally tankies, but often lionize the Soviet Union? I don't like it. I mean, the goal of being a socialist is to turn people over who are not socialists, right? And if you're trying to do that, then you shouldn't lionize the Soviet Union. If you want to be a niche leftist channel that only leftists will care about, and like already like the only initiated will be interested in, then you can do that. Like if you want to start your like very niche, hyper-specific Marx reading circle, you can do that. I don't really watch Hakeem though. I don't know. Like the reason I didn't make my channel like that, even though I read a lot of leftist theory, like I read Marx and I have read a lot of Marx, like, but the reason I don't go into that stuff is because like as a viewer, I don't want to watch content that looks like that. Just kind of looks kind of cringe to me. And it just doesn't really teach me the things I want to learn. I don't really want to know why the Soviet Union would have been better if only this, and this hadn't happened, like, you know? Why do I... Whoa. Okay. Fuck it. Let's talk about this. Manus!
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you?
Yeah, fine. What did you want to talk about?
I just wanted to talk about unionism in general.
Okay.
So
you're the unionist, the Northern Irish union.
Yeah.
Okay. Not gonna lie, I only know my opposition to unionism in the context of Scotland. So I don't know if you want to argue about like Irish unification and all that, because I don't really I haven't been that far into that sphere.
Like, do you support Northern Irish unification?
I'm leaning towards it, yeah, mostly because as far as unionists go, I seem to oppose them on every single political thing. So
What about like the economics of it?
I really don't buy any of it. Like there's so many like you can't predict what a country is going to look like if it goes independent. Generally, most countries have like an infrastructure that they can already work with, and that actually puts you ahead of most countries that have ever gone independent. I don't really know any countries that went independent and had a massive downturn because of, especially, well, at least in Europe, right? Like, you know, Norway went independent from Sweden in 1905, and there was a huge warning. You know, the economy was going to suffer. There was going to be bread lines and all that, and you know, they're
Well, what
arguably
about
even better off
Eastern
than,
Europe,
well,
like
and their independence
Germany
from East Germany.
and Ukraine? Yeah,
Okay.
like that very much disturbed their economy.
Their economies were fairly disturbed before they went independent. Like they already had bread lines before their independence. They already had like
Yeah, but when you take a country like East Germany and how well it was connected with Eastern Europe,
Mhm.
and you kind of bring it over to like Germany,
Yeah,
and
so
its infrastructure isn't built around that.
so I think this isn't this is a slightly different context. Although I do agree is that like East Germany suffered very heavily after the fall of the like Iron Curtain. I think, but that's the slight difference there is that these were like it wasn't even so much like this like East Germany didn't even gain independence; it just became part of Germany, and you also had like Soviet Union and Western Europe were completely different economies. You know, they had different names. You know, one was called socialism and one was called capitalism. You can argue, even if you want to argue that it wasn't real socialism, it was state capitalism going into capitalism. And you can say there were a lot of decisions in that. There was a lot of opportunism around that time where like the things that ruined parts of especially I can't remember which, I think it was mostly in ex-Yugoslavia that I know the details on this for, where part of the independence process was just first of all massive factionalist scramble for control, but also just that if you had an entire economy that was run by the state and in one stroke opening up to public investment, it was all bought up by very, very rich people very, very quickly and concentrated very strongly in a way that was just completely unproductive. Same with like all the problems with East Germany, you could argue happened to Russia as well after the fall of the Iron Curtain, the growth of the oligarchs. So that's something I think that's going to be very specific to ex-Soviet states because like Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland are still both capitalist countries. You're not massively changing the economic system and framework as they were with Germany and Eastern Europe.
Right. Yeah, I agree a wee bit with that. And what I'm just saying is like we're built in a way, even Scotland, for example, that's built in a way to be connected with England. So when you say, well, I want Scotland to be independent, it's not really built in a way where it would be better for it just to trade with Ireland or Norway or France.
Well,
It should primarily trade with England.
They can still trade though. I don't see like what company is going to stop trading. The thing is when these countries go independent, it's going to be in the interest of English businesses for that transition to go as smoothly as possible. Now there might be a political motivation for say the Conservative Party to impose tariffs and to make trade difficult and to make it just to basically as a power move. Like the European Union is kind of trying to do that to the UK right now. I don't doubt that. But no, I think that's again like Norway was built to be like essentially a colony of Sweden, like, and it did fine like they're almost immediately.
Well, that was back in the 1810s, if I'm thinking correctly.
Yeah, when economic trade between
globalism-
countries was less smooth than it is now.
Yeah, that was before globalism. But now, if you're not as successful at globalism now, you can't be as economically independent now as you could have been back in 1910.
It's not really about being like again that goes both ways though, because globalism also means that trade with I'll say globalization is probably a better word, but globalization means that trade with other countries is also smoother than it used to be. So I don't see like what kind of scenario do you have in mind here that suddenly like whiskey shops in England are going to stop taking whiskey from Scotland because Scotland's independent. Like we're already devolved.
No, it
Like,
would
there's
be more
already a border.
expensive because it would be more expensive to get things
That's
from England
that's a
to
choice.
Scotland.
That's a choice, though. That doesn't have to be the case.
Well, there would be a hard border because you can't have this, like, same thing with Northern Ireland. You know, we're in the EU, but in Scotland, if they join the EU, there would have to be a hard border there, same way there is in the Irish Sea.
Okay, I don't know the details on this, but hard border in terms of, say, something like immigration doesn't actually have to be like a hard border economically. Like there are like I think doesn't the United States and Canada have deals like this where they have like where they allow smooth like because otherwise you can make that argument as well. Like you could say the United States and Canada are massively economically dependent on each other, yet it's not really like why is it not in their interest to just become one country? Like because they have ways around this. Again, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on all the economics of what happens when a country becomes independence. All I can go from is the fact that countries do this and they do well enough out of it. Like they generally do well out of it.
Right, and I have another question for you. So, I'm a socialist,
Okay.
and I'm also a unionist. But so Northern Ireland is very conservative.
Oh, yeah.
Southern Ireland is a lot more progressive. You have like Sinn Féin is more popular there, and like all the parties. You know, Fine Gael, which is our conservative party, that would
Okay.
be centrist in the UK. So what I'm saying is like if we bring in basically 2 million people in Northern Ireland who are far more conservative than the ones in Southern Ireland, and we hurt socialism, it's far less likely we'll get a socialist Ireland.
Okay. I don't, again, it's really hard to say because that's kind of like, do you also support the argument then that that a independent Scotland would kill socialism in the UK because socialism's like
Yeah.
more popular in Scotland than it is
Yeah,
in
I would say
England?
that an independent Scotland would make England and the whole British Isle more conservative.
Yeah, it's hard to, again, like, because the other side of that coin is that Scotland already leans that way and isn't allowed to go as far that way as it would like to because of pressure because of they're still in the UK. So again, I'm like with Irish unification, I don't know enough about it, but about Scotland, I think the case is just that first of all, Scotland can easily set an example when it comes to England. I think that would be like if the SNP are quite sincere and if Scottish independence and the white paper like for next time does properly follow that Nordic model, then that would actually allow to lead by example rather than to just stay with the kind of with the chain that is currently what's happening in the union.
So, like, but what about with Ireland, like the Republic of Ireland? Because, that's kind of led a very progressive example. However, England hasn't really followed that, even though about 38% of people in England have Irish ancestry, and about 200,000 migrants in London are Irish.
Yeah.
So, and yet England hasn't like adopted more of these radical policies that Ireland is giving.
Yeah. Although I guess, did you say London?
Yeah, there are 200,000 Irish migrants in London.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess London is pretty left-leaning compared to the rest of the UK, at least in how they vote. But yeah, no, I don't. Again, like I'd say that I think one thing that's quite common for countries when they go independent is that the political makeup of them changes quite significantly. Like the SNP, for example, are probably going to find it a lot harder to be the incumbents after
I would
Scottish
say
independence. Yeah, because right
I'd
now
say
they
they
can.
would win the election for another two election cycles after independence.
Yeah, because right
And-
now we're just a one-party state. Like that's another reason. Another like my big reason for Scottish independence as well is like I value democracy over anything else, and we are just a one-party state in this situation because, like, well, it's maybe two because of the Greens. They actually do things, but yeah, it's
yeah, like what were the two constituencies where people were progressive unionists voted for Tories and right-wing unionists voted for Labour?
Hmm. Okay.
That happened in Scotland. I remember hearing that on a BBC Northern Ireland.
I don't know. Your unionists in the UK either tend to go Tory or Labour, really.
But is
I
it
don't-
common in Scotland for them, like if you're a conservative unionist, that you will vote Labour to
Um,
just get a unionist?
I don't know. I don't think so. No, like if conservatives in the UK just tend to in Scotland tend to just vote conservative, as far as I know from personal anecdote.
Right, because
But then there's
I was
also a lot
watching
of
the
conservatives in
BBC.
the SNP. So
I was watching the BBC, and that's kind of like what they blamed the SNP not getting their majority on.
oh no, that's bullshit. The reason the SNP didn't give a majority is because the system is designed to not let people get majorities. Like it's so hard. You need
Well, they were
like,
what were they 2 seats below?
they were one seat off, which actually shows you just how popular they are. Because again, if you look at it's the way that the regional vote system works. Is the regional vote system basically means the more constituency seats you win, the less likely you'll be to get regional seats. Like they actually work it in a way that it's properly like really difficult to get a majority. So I mean, you could
Yeah,
say
that's
that was
that's
partly to
too.
do with voting patterns, but really it's just because it's because of that system. Like if it was just first past the post, you know, they would have a pretty big majority.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I would say like Northern Ireland is more democratic than the South because we have mandatory coalitions, which basically means the nationalists and the unionists have to get together, make decisions, so they can't fuck each other over.
Okay. That's
But
interesting.
but when you look at minority treatment in the South, like how they treat the travelers,
Hmm.
and it's completely barbaric how they treat them. You know, how would they treat the Ulster Scots or the Protestant minority?
I don't know. It's a good question. I think generally, people are better to each other with less borders. Like borders are kind of like they breed violence historically. So I don't know, but again, like I wish I could have looked more into this before this discussion. But I mean, I do appreciate you
Yeah, like
bringing it up. I definitely will look at it as soon as I'm done with this. But yeah,
yeah, and if you ever want to have a conversation again, then you know I love your channel, so come in
thanks.
anytime. You know.
Nice one. All right, have a good one, buddy.
Right, bye, mate.
Bye bye. Right, fuck you guys. We're learning all about Ireland as soon as possible. Fuck. Whenever it's kind of amazing that someone said unionist and I just thought like Ian Paisley. That's a fucking me problem. The traveler's argument, yeah, I could have maybe said that. That's kind of a problem everywhere. I am downing that wine. Fuck, it's already gone. No, he was a nice guy, yeah. What do we got here? Yeah, fuck. I don't know, like honestly, like arguments with like dumb fuck race realists is just so much more fun for me than like consensus discussions. So I keep fucking getting that phrase wrong. Why is friend of the show Meyer Tuzi not on YouTube anymore? I know he complains about censorship all the time, but I don't know if that's why he's not. Let's see.
By now, you've already seen the title of the video. So I'm going to explain why I'm leaving YouTube. It was about 3 years ago when, after being constantly let down by the left-wing bias of the mainstream media, I decided to use
The
my
left-wing bias of what a fucking good start, eh? The left-wing bias of the British media. One of the fucking heads of the BBC is a fucking Tory. The Murdoch Press, the Daily Mail, the bias of the left. Fuck off.
iPhone in my bedroom and uploaded the first video on YouTube.
Yeah, like this, this fucking like response to Novara Media. But okay, yeah, fucking hell. What? Yeah, Sky News. Fuck's sake! Like, even the Guardian. What the like? These people. What's their fucking problem? Koonsberg. The Mirror. The Star. Desmond. The fucking victim complex. No, you did this because there is more money and you will get more media time as a right winger than you will as a left winger. That's it. You'll go on talk radio, fucking LBC, fucking Pierce Morgan. Victim complex. Okay.
Hoping that some people would care about my political views. Now, at the time, it was just a hobby alongside my normal job. But 230,000 subscribers later, here we are. We are now the go-to source for daily political updates for a lot of people. We are now a media business. I have a small team that help me on a daily basis. My time
That's really. I just can't get my nut around the kind of people who watch this guy. He is so fucking boring. I know.
tiny hobby turned into my career, my business, and my passion. And together, we achieved a lot. We challenged the mainstream media's lack of objective reporting during Brexit. We scrutinized the government in lockdown. And we exposed the hypocrisy of the liberal left and the woke brigade. Now, this platform gave me a massive opportunity, which I'm grateful for. I represented you guys on talk radio and other media platforms. I interviewed influential figures.
I was tired of the bias of the media, so I spoke about it and then got interviewed on all the media. Okay.
Such
Like, what the. Yeah, because fucking censorship, like woke censorship, is when you fucking have reactionary views and get interviewed about it everywhere. That's all. That's what it is. That's what woke censorship is.
as Nigel Farage and many others. But something changed. YouTube decided to no longer work with us and be on our side.
What?
We've been having a lot of problems over the last few months. We've been unfairly demonetized, shadow banned, and our videos no longer being recommended to many non-subscribers.
Wait. What? Wait, that's pretty bad, isn't it? Whoa. See what that. Let's look at my channel for that. Okay. So I think it's under audience. No, wait. 6138. Dude, maybe it's because you're a boring fuck. Is the most common ratio 50? Okay. I mean, I did hear that I wasn't getting recommended to that many people until this new video. But,
You've seen the problems recently. Big tech censorship has been hitting a lot of channels, especially the so-called right-wing news channels, from Alex Belfield to Steven Crowder, and this channel has not been exempt from.
Yeah, because Steven Crowder violates the TOS all the fucking time. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't like the whole, it's a private company, they can do what they want. But being a platform doesn't mean that you need to recommend racist bullshit in people's feeds. You don't have to do that.
So, I'm at the crossroads. I could either continue with the uncertainty of this channel disappearing at any moment, or take a big risk, like Brexit. Now, of course, there are alternative apps out there, but as you saw,
Comparing your fucking YouTube journey to Brexit. Okay.
what happened with Parler, they could be taken down from their app stores or the servers that host them any moment. So we needed an independent platform away from big tech censorship and away from constant irrelevant ads. Now, my team and I have been working on an exciting project, and I can finally announce the launch of our very own independent, ad-free, restriction-free, and censorship-free MyITC channel. Now, this is going to be your one-stop shop, your go-to hub for all political and cultural
Wait, why am I not being recommended on your website, Myra2Z? Are you censoring me?
news. We're going to have everything in one place. We're going to have a daily news show, which is a longer version of what you've been seeing on YouTube, but we also have a podcast version in case you don't have the time to sit down and watch the videos. You could just listen to them on the go. We also have a section for news articles where we will be updating throughout the day with breaking news, the sort of news that actually matters to you and the rest of the country, not what you see on BBC News or Sky News apps. And we want to improve accessibility for you guys to be connected to me and the rest of the team directly on a more regular basis. We're going to have chat forums where we can discuss various political topics on a daily basis. I want to do more for you guys. Different shows, different formats. I want to interview more influential figures. I want to go out there and do more investigation videos without the fear of being censored or being taken down. We're all sick and tired of the big platforms, the big tech sites telling us what to do and what we can say and what we can't say. Now, this new platform, your one-stop shop, is going to be the main media hub for you to get all your daily updates from what's been happening across the country. Now, some of you might be disappointed that we're leaving YouTube. Now, of course, this platform has been free and open for all. But as I said, they have now made it impossible for us to continue doing what we want to do. So we have to take this big risk. We're no longer going to have censorship, no more YouTube ads.
This is the fucking Caitlyn Bennett move. It's behind a paywall. Look. Like, there's like daily shows. You have to log in, join now. And it's $2.99 for membership to look at the forums. He's still going to post on YouTube, by the way. There's no fucking way he's going to stop putting videos on YouTube. I can't even read this article about Tommy Robinson being in the pro-Israel march. The fuck? Just censoring poor people, Myra2Z.
No more blank donations. We're going to have a simple subscription-based system.
Oh.
For 10p a day, cheaper than your cheapest newspapers, which is about 60, 65p a day, you'll have access to this media hub and everything I've listed and much more, which will be added in the future. Now, some of you have been supporting this channel by being a
It's not a bad price if you're actually into that sort of thing. I disagree. Because this sort of thing is free on YouTube everywhere. You can still watch his channel. He has 230,000 subscribers. Fuck's sake.
YouTube member. Now it's time for you to cancel your YouTube membership and join us on this new site. It is now time to take back control of the narrative because we are the media. So join me. Click on
His
the link in
fucking
the
use of catchphrases. Oh, God.
description or type in the address you see on the screen. Until then, I'm MyITC and I'll see you guys on the other side.
Wow. What a fucking baby, man. Imagine having...
By now,
Imagine using the fact that you're not showing up in people's recommended as much. Because he lies all the time, by the way. That's why. He's a disinformation channel. Imagine having 82 million views, 230k subscribers, and saying, oh, we're not getting as many views as we used to, and we really want to get our message out there. Come to my website behind a fucking paywall to view the rest of my content. Why would he use that as an excuse? It's because someone wants to make money. Yeah. I mean, it's true. Like when you're on YouTube and you do political stuff, and you're not smart like me, then all your videos will get at least partially demonetized. Not all of them. Yeah, you can do all right, really. This isn't eligible because the Sex Pistols are fucking snakes, and this one because the Beatles are fucking snakes. Whatever. Cancel your YouTube membership. I know. Imagine thinking yourself that much of a fucking revolution, but he's not. He wants to go. Yeah, he's not. I think he's just not making enough money off YouTube, and he wants to. He'll still upload his videos to YouTube, like 100%. He'll come back. He'll do some free content, and then the rest he'll just hide behind his fucking paywall. Probably so he can lie more often. It's probably the biggest reason. What else have we got? What other content have we got going on here? What's the Discord looking like? I'm still taking call-ins, by the way. We can do a few more. That first caller was so fucking funny, though. Oh, God. Does anyone remember that study she was talking about? The Commission on Race and Ethnic Disparities. It was here. Oh, if you're looking at Discord, I was wondering where's the best to donate to you on YouTube, Super Chat. You can get your comment next to a big fucking wheel. Why not? YouTube just met their next competitor, Mario 2. I know. What is this? Look at this summary of recommendations. This was the policy recommendations that came out. Build trust, promote fairness, how the fuck do you create agency? Achieve inclusivity. This report comes at a pivotal moment for our nation's. No, wait, the forward. Wasn't the forward kind of weird? Last summer, let's share an investigation. Keep it. Oh. Starblood with the $5. Had to leave YouTube as well because censorship. Takes you too spicy without a paywall, so follow me on OnlyFans. What's your YouTube apolitical entertainment? It varies like every week. This week it's been Attitude Era Wrestling. You know, because I'm a boomer. Yeah, I swear there was a part in this study where they said there were gaps in education, but they were because the Africans weren't working hard enough. There was definitely a bit in there where they said that. The picture of educational achievement across ethnic groups is complex, and different social, economic, and cultural factors contribute to this. Parental income levels, parental career and educational achievement, geography, family structure, and attitudes towards education within the family and wider community. What is clear, however, is that strong earlier support, good schools, and evidence-based interventions can also improve. I don't remember. I need to have a look at that again. Do I want to... Do I want to debate Scottish independence specifically? Left wing but anti... Ah, the left wing... Oh, no. Oh, God. It's all very, like, hypothetical when you're debating independence with a left winger. I mean, I could. Have you ever seen the bin fire that is history debunked? No. Is that really something I want to do now, though? Do I want to debate independence with a left winger? What does chat think? Are we doing it? Are we getting on that? I don't know. Chat's very fucking mixed on it. Oh, God. It's going to... fuck's sake. Why can't I want... I want chuds who laugh at me for not knowing the sample size of a YouGov poll. Fuck it. I'll go in the channel. Go into the waiting room if you want to debate then. Go on. Would I do a video on the Frankfurt School? Maybe. Frankfurt School are pretty based. Like, the whole cultural Marxist thing is like... Yeah. I think the whole cultural Marxist conspiracy has been kind of well addressed. But I could definitely talk about, I don't know, like, I mentioned parts of the Frankfurt School in some videos. I've mentioned Walter Benjamin and a few others. Like, that is something that's come up. Okay. Hello.
Hey,
Hey, how's it going?
great, thanks.
So,
Finals at uni coming up, so I'll keep this quick. Got a lot of
okay.
like stuff, so
Yeah, don't let this take you away from your commitments. What's your take? Hit me up.
I guess my relatively stale take is that the best solution is Scotland gets kind of autonomy to make decisions regarding kind of policy thing. So it gets to have kind of left-wing policy, but still stays in the UK because, firstly, I think that would be better for kind of economic stability reasons, and secondly, we'd still be able to influence a left-wing sort of influence over UK politics, make it marginally harder for the Conservatives to get majorities.
I don't really know how many Conservative majorities there have been that wouldn't have happened without Scotland. But as for the economic stability, do we know that Scotland is more economically stable within the UK than it is without? Like, we are kind of like, when we get prototyped for things like the poll tax or for universal credit, that does create an economic instability, doesn't it?
True, but I suppose the more autonomy Scotland has now, like oversetting things like tax rates, it's probably less likely to get guinea pigged, given that it has more autonomy now. Also, on the first thing about the left-wing influence, I don't know. I know Theresa May had the DUP supporting her, but like that was a majority, or wasn't a majority that would have been a majority if Scotland didn't have a disproportionately low number of Conservative MPs. So like, it's pretty possible it would be the tipping point.
What do you think? What do you think Scotland shouldn't have control over then?
I mean, the thing is, I don't think there isn't anything Scotland shouldn't have control over. It's just that if we stay in the UK, we have to sacrifice autonomy in exchange for certain kind of economic benefits. So I don't think Scotland not having autonomy is a good thing, but I think that we can kind of trade off some of that autonomy.
Yeah, but I need to
being
know,
able to
like,
keep the pound and things
I
like
guess
that.
I need to know what autonomy in particular, because like there has been, I know during the last referendum there was plenty of talk about how Scotland could still use the pound and still be independent because we already have a stake in the Bank of England. So like that could transfer over well enough. But again, I'm like, you said sacrificing autonomy, but what? I need to know what autonomy in particular.
I mean, like defense, constitutional things, like whatever. It's hard to say specifically, but I guess the minimum amount of autonomy that would be necessary to still be a part of the UK and be able to have trade that isn't at all restricted. And I mean, the currency issue, I mean, you brought up that point, but it is questionable whether the Bank of England, if Scotland wasn't independent, would care about whether its decisions were good or bad for Scotland's economy, because it would be more separated from the UK's economy. So I guess the minimum amount of autonomy necessary in order to still have those economic benefits of like free trade and be represented, I guess, by the Bank of England.
Yeah, I don't really know if I buy that, because countries that used to be part of a bigger empire but then are not, like say like Norway and Sweden or Finland, these economies are still massively interdependent, and trade between them is fairly smooth. Even though, like, even considering that Norway's not even like in the EU formally, they still manage to keep a fairly smooth relationship with Sweden. Yeah, I don't know. I just wonder. Like, I guess I would need to maybe hear an argument about why Scotland shouldn't, because I don't like shouldn't have independence, because like as far as I know, like every other country seems to get to do it. Like, as far as the pragmatism of shaping the English vote, I think looking at polling like history, I don't really know if there's ever been like a Labour government that needed Scotland, because it's only 40 or 50 seats. And majorities are usually bigger than that.
I guess, like, I don't think they're changing seats, but what, there's 600, 50 seats at the moment or so, like 57 of those are in Scotland. So a majority, let's say like the Conservatives never got a Scottish seat, which obviously isn't the case, but so then they'd need right now they need about 325 seats for a majority, depending on like how many seats Sinn Féin get. But if Scotland left, they'd only need to get like 290, something like that, 295. So it's like, yeah, like of course that's going to be like a minority of elections, but I don't know, like one in.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it
Five
was.
or
2000, I
10.
think the exception to this was 2005. Yeah, that was when
Alright.
Labour needed Scotland. Otherwise, they've never needed. I mean, you can make the argument that because the margins are much tighter now than they used to be, that might change. But again, I don't really like the idea of not having your independence just so another country, like it is another country that already has a radically different voting tendency from you anyway, just so that they can't be Tory. I feel like that's something that, and I maybe, again, because it's all hypothetical, I'd even maybe say that Scotland can actually, the fact that it can be an alternative economic model that's so close to home for England can actually be something that breaks that Tory spell in England, especially since conservatism and unionism is so tied into it that the whole like conservative and unionist image gets kind of existentially hit when they no longer have the union. But again,
Yeah,
like,
it is kind of up in the air, like what the practical impact would be. But it's just like a
the
fairly
fact that
concrete thing that like 30 seats or more to get majority probably does make it harder. Although there could be some other possibility in which, Scotland becomes an alternative model and that outweighs the influence of the 30 seats. So kind of hard to say.
yeah, and I mean, it looks like England's made its choice anyway. Like they seem to be pretty keen on keeping the Tories in, regardless of what happens.
Yeah, like it's Boris's majority is like too big now for Scotland to really make a difference,
Yeah,
and England's is depressingly right wing.
yeah,
But
and I think
I mean, there's other reasons apart from
yeah, go
lacking
on.
influence, like stuff about the economic relationship. Like you say, Norway and Sweden, they traded fairly well. I mean, I guess there's a question of what trade agreements would be signed and how that would actually work out. But it's possible that trade with England would be restricted to some extent, especially if there's like a, kind of fuck Scotland for leaving, let's stick around with them kind of vibe.
Yeah, I think that's, there's definitely a possibility that would happen, but then that's also, there's going to be a conflict there because politicians might want to do that. Corporations and businesses who influence those politicians definitely wouldn't, because that hurts them. If they weaken trade flows with Scotland, that's going to hurt them as well because it's a two-way thing. So again, I'm not really sure
I mean,
I think
you could say that like Brexit wouldn't have happened, right? Because corporations, I assume, didn't want Brexit to happen, but like the kind of nationalist.
No, plenty of corporations, or what you could say like capital entities, did want Brexit to happen because some of them, like the fishing industry, did not like having the EU with like the fishing quotas. So that was the Brexit thing was like the whole like the Karl Marx like the band of hostile brothers thing. So yeah, that was a pretty strong expression of conflict within corporations. Not every corporation needed the EU. Some didn't want it. That's why it was corporate CEOs who supported Brexit, like Weatherspoons,
Yeah. I wonder if that would be to some extent symmetric with how corporations would react to Scotland, like whether they'd all be in favour of more trade with Scotland or
maybe,
not,
although I
if they weren't
don't.
all the same with Brexit.
I can see with the Brexit thing, with the EU thing, because the EU is a foreign entity that imposes tariffs, but an independent Scotland isn't going to impose any difficulty on English businesses. So I don't know if there's much of an analogy there.
Maybe not, but I guess it kind of. So I guess the overall thing we're talking about is what sort of trade agreement would we get? Would it be free and unrestricted? And one reason why it would be is because corporations will probably be in favour of it. And one reason why maybe not is like political incentives to screw over Scotland. And they seem kind of balanced. But like an additional reason that would, like if you take joining the EU or rejoin the EU, a lot of people take that as a reason for independence. Like Nicola Sturgeon said in debates that you shouldn't vote for Lib Dems if you're pro EU, you should vote for the SNP because we'll be independent and rejoin the EU. So that seems to be
Yeah.
like a big point. But I mean, like, insofar as there's an issue with trade between Northern Ireland and the UK because of the border of a non-EU nation with the EU nation, then if Scotland was in the EU, then I think trade between Scotland and the EU Scotland and England would get a bit fucked up because there'd be a kind of Irish border issue. But
Yeah, I'm
England.
personally not in favor of that angle that the SNP are taking, because yeah, you could say that like Scotland didn't vote to leave the EU, but then you can also say that prior to that, Scotland did vote to stay in the UK and to let the results of UK-wide referenda affect them. So yeah, like I don't really want to go into that whole like, I don't even know what you'd call like a legalist argument, or even just like it's almost like philosophical at that point. But yeah, no, I don't actually like it that they're doing that. I think if an independent Scotland joins the EU, it should be maybe a referendum or just like a general election where one party says we're going to join the EU if we win, and the other party says we won't, because we don't actually know. Like a lot's changed since the referendum. We don't know if Scottish people are going to want to like that. Maybe like the difference between leaving and the difference between remaining and rejoining, that might exist, you know. So I really
Yeah.
hope, I really like, again, I support the campaign because I support independence. I think as a separate nation with very separate voting patterns and different ideological dispositions deserves to have its independence. But yeah, there are definitely going to be aspects of that I won't like the EU thing.
I guess like we've talked about kind of like potential negatives of Scottish independence and why there might not be a thing. What do you think the positives of Scottish independence are? Things that we can have that we can't have just with more autonomy
Yeah,
within the UK.
quite a few things, because obviously what like the symbolism of the UK, like as this massive empire, conquered a quarter of the world, the world leaders and the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. I think a lot of that just needs to kind of go. I think it's outdated and nothing will push it further in the right. Like this is the problem, like England has never, like I guess the UK in general has never really coped with that whole fact that they're not the biggest empire anymore. Like not really, like not in the same way that countries like Germany or have had to, for example. And I think that like need for a kind of like reflection on the narrative like is very easily pushed by Scottish independence. There's going to be a lot of like soul searching and all that. But as for more like pragmatic things, then as soon as Scottish independence happens, then everything about the UK that affected Scotland, whether it was, Thatcherism or the monarchy or British foreign policy, like all of that comes into question. And I think a lot of what happens in the UK, like our attitudes to foreign policy and the just like a lot of the traditions just exist because they are traditions. And I think there's a very good case to bring those traditions like under scrutiny and to actually like allow this part of the world to start moving beyond that, to start moving forward. And yeah, I just think that there's definitely a real need to bring a lot of the kind of customs of the United Kingdom into question. And as well as that, just because like we're not like I don't like not living in a sovereign state. One of the results of that is that elections are really fucking boring. There's a very limited purview for what we can do. Yeah, I just think it's it's nice to live in a sovereign nation, and currently we don't.
I think it's a kind of optimistic to think that the UK would react to Scotland's kind of saying like, your whole idea is shit. We're out of here.
I mean, it doesn't need to, but Northern independence is already a thing. I would like to. I'm almost 100% sure that wouldn't have come up as a concept were it not for them being surrounded by Welsh, Scottish, and Irish independence.
I think they're more likely to react to this sort of stuff by like doubling down on the whole thing. the whole kind of nationalist, Little England kind of mindset.
I mean, they're doing
Um,
that already. Like that's already amping up. I don't know if
but that kind of suggests to me that like it's just kind of a thing that they're going for, and it's going to be, I don't know, Scottish independence would really make a difference to that,
I mean, it
or if
doesn't.
it did, it might just make it worse.
I mean, making it worse again. I don't know. That's like, it's all very like hypothetical from that point. But like, if I was going to give, if I only had to give one argument, and I think it's really like this, the one that moves me in that direction the most is that, just that independence is better than not having independence. And right now we don't get the parties we vote for. We don't get all the policies that our voting behaviors would imply. We have we get guinea pigged, and there's kind of like all kinds of economic inequalities as well, like the way that the distribution of oil is basically serving a very strong function for like the English economy as opposed to the Scottish. That's a bit more complicated, but yeah, I just think definitely if you're going to choose between independence and not independence, like you should choose independence. Like sovereignty is like
Yeah,
the
I mean, I
main
guess it
argument
kind
for
of
me.
depends how much power the Scottish government has and if it will get more.
Yeah, I mean, it
Um,
can always get more power, but the point about it being devolved is that that's a power that's given to you, you know,
I guess
not
like in
just that you
principle, it's
have it.
kind of like it's kind of shit to be like, like you can have this power, and that's not because you're, the people of Scotland say so, but because the UK government says you can have it. But in practice, like it doesn't really make much of a difference why we have that power, so long as it's not going to be taken away.
Yeah, well, again, but then if you're saying if you're saying there's no autonomy that we should give up, like there's not really any sphere of social life that we should be giving up to Westminster, then why do we even need to show up? What's the point in showing up in Westminster? You know, at that point, we're basically an independent country already. So, like, I'd be I'd be fine. Like, I don't know if the compromise, for whatever reason, if you were kind of like putting some negative consequences aside, just to say that Scotland basically gets to be an independent country in every way except on paper, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird that there's not so much of a disagreement on if you say like if my position is we don't want autonomy and we don't want to actually give autonomy. It's not actually good that the UK gets to make decisions for us. Just that the UK has some kind of economic benefits for us. It's like you're not really defending unionism in principle. You're just saying like Scotland just practically gets a better deal when it gets certain like economic benefits. I mean, you can say that they're not benefits, but if you think they are benefits, it's not really debating independence, it's just debating kind of how much Scotland can take advantage of having a certain relationship with the UK rather than the principle of it.
Yeah, although the thing is, at the moment, and I think it's been the case for a long time, I don't really know what advantage there is from being part of the advantage that England gets. Problem with the English economy is that it is so deindustrialized and so service based that they have a very, very big trade deficit with the amount they import and export. So that's why the one thing that bridges that gap is oil. So that would create, like, that's probably the most predictable issue that would happen from independence, is that there'd be a trade deficit in the English economy. And I don't know if that really sways my decision that much. But yeah, that's the point, is like I don't really know what exactly we should, like in Scotland, like we should be sacrificing. Like if we have like complete autonomy and we might, and then we're just independent anyway. So
Yeah, it's an odd one. It's not the most.
so I'm guessing
You know,
you're
debate.
you're English, aren't you?
I might sound like it, but my dad was English, but I'm not actually English. I'm from Edinburgh.
Okay. Oh yeah, I suppose everyone in Edinburgh talks like not like I'm not one to talk either. My accent is not Scottish. Yeah, I don't know. It's just Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I keep on like arguments against independence. I hear it's either your typical uh, project fear, but then you're not really doing that though. I think you're just saying that I don't like. I'd say maybe the onus is a bit more on you. Like what? Yeah. What? So what are your concerns? We can probably close in on that and then we can call it. But yeah, like what are your
guess
concerns?
currency and potential restrictions on trade with England
Yeah.
are and maybe the deficit that Scotland runs at the moment, and we'd have to have like austerity to deal with that.
Right. So the last one you said is the one I have no concern with at all. You don't solve deficits with austerity. It's never happened. Like austerity has never solved a deficit anywhere on earth. You solve deficits by investing. And like every country has a big deficit. It's not like Scotland's gonna just be like, oh shit, there's a deficit. Like we already have a deficit and we already deal with a deficit. So not that, but fuck, what was the other? The other two you said were they were
Trade and
better.
currency.
Yeah, so currency is a weird one. Like when I first heard this, I would just kind of meme about how like suddenly everyone who's anti-independence has turned into a currency expert because currency is a really complicated thing. But I think I did hear, this is so long ago, I did hear one argument that either the currency could be the pound, in which case you have to, like the Bank of England could basically do things in England's favor as opposed to Scotland. And they will be quite different economies, like just because of the oil alone. I think there may be the next independence referendum, there should be a better argument about how Scotland would go about a new currency that isn't the pound. Because we do have our stake in the Bank of England, and we do have a strong financial industry, and we do have like oil. Most countries don't have any oil. So yeah, the currency thing, I think the argument could have been made better in 2014 because that whole thing about just using the pound, that I don't think that went far enough. And the other thing was
Like
trade deal.
all small countries. Yeah, okay. And then the other thing was trade.
Yeah, I'd be very against because there are some Scottish people who I think the independence movement is kind of divided on this. Like there are some people who do want like a big hard border and hands off our oil and all that. I think as far as trade between the nations go, I don't think that's the problem. I think it's in the interest of both parties, Scotland and England, to leave that mostly the way it is.
I guess for all of those things, especially given that I, like basically everybody else, has like a certain amount of ignorance about both politically what's going to happen and economically what the impact of stuff would be. It's just like a great deal of uncertainty. Like it could go bad. I know like Project Fear or whatever, but like I don't know. Like if there is a pretty large probability, not necessarily over 50%, but just like a significant probability that things could economically get kind of screwed up because I don't know, we adopt our own currency and then it fluctuates really wildly, for example, and that could like mess up our economy, or like Little England politicians in the UK have some sort of like substantial trade restrictions, or I don't know, we try to rejoin the EU and they say something like balance your budget or like have a really small budget deficit really quickly, and like maybe that needs austerity, I don't know, or maybe I don't know, something on any of those three areas happens that kind of makes the economy go sideways.
Well,
like that could happen. So
I'm going to give you a lazy answer on this one because I've been drinking a bit and because it's been so long since I've had one of these discussions, which I do appreciate, by the way. It's going to be very like no one has ever like people have predicted things that are going to happen in the economy, but then every person you find who makes successful predictions about the economy has also made about twice as many incorrect predictions. The economy is not predictable. And I think when it comes to the consequences of an act so significant as becoming independent from a 300-odd-year-old union are pretty out there. So as far as the risks go, yes, that does mean that there are potential risks, but then I would equally say that in an economy run by Tories, and this was definitely the case for the last 10 years, is that people didn't really consider the risk of staying in the UK. The fact that we didn't leave in 2014 meant austerity carried on. It meant that more people got thrown onto universal credit, humiliated, and like bullied when they're at their very most vulnerable. And we ended up getting taken out of the EU, which definitely the economic downsides of that we're already seeing. Like importing clothes is more expensive now. If you buy clothes from Europe, you pay more. So yeah, I think when it comes to considering risks, I think maybe the best response is any kind of, those risk calculations that came out of the EU, like the economy will shrink by 2.7% in 6 months and this many jobs will be lost. Like, these predictions are not worth the paper that they're written on. And I'd say the same with Scotland. And any risks of leaving are matched, I'd say, by risks of staying in basically a country and a system that is no longer a functioning democracy. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Westminster
it
is
depends
fucked.
on how big a difference you think an independent Scotland will be in terms of its policies, just generally like how good a country it is for people to live in, as opposed to Britain at the moment. And then you have to weigh that potential benefit against the risks of the economy being screwed up.
Yeah, I mean, like
And there's obviously a lot of uncertainty, but it seems like there's a larger potential for it to go quite badly wrong than it is for, like, I don't know what it going amazingly really would look like, but I feel like the difference between now and it going pretty well is smaller than the difference between now and it going sideways and the economy getting messed up.
I mean, I don't really know if that's a prediction that could be made because, again, like the well-being of an economy is down to the choices of the people who are governing that economy. Really, like Scotland is, as far as wealth goes, we're like the 7th richest country on earth, or like per capita. Like, there's a lot of wealth in Scotland. That's not our problem. The risk would be that if we get independence and it turns out all those independence people were actually like white nationalist fucking right wingers and they spend all the money on anti-immigration policy. Yeah, like that kind of thing. But that would just be about that. Again, that would be our decision. We'd be able to be in full control over what happens to our fate as the 7th richest country per head. So, like, again, like if we stay, it's quite likely that for the next 5-10 years, we're going to be under conservatives, and conservatives are not very good when it comes to the economy, especially if you're poor, and even worse if you're an immigrant. So, like, I don't think comparing those risks is necessary. And now that we know, at least, that the patterns of Scottish people is for economic policies that are more progressive, that tend to yield better results for most people, then no, I think there's actually a bigger risk in staying.
I mean, like, even if I don't think I buy the premise that the Scottish economy's fate is just solely determined by how good the policies we have are, just because like the situation of a country, what countries it's surrounded by, and how they act towards it also influences it hugely. Like, if you're a small country and you're trying to have your own currency that no one else has, it's just, you can't reliably say it's not going to fluctuate pretty dramatically. But the only other option is kind of to use someone else's currency or have like capital controls, or just be a massive country, in which case your currency is probably less likely to fluctuate. But
yeah, I guess this is quite a cruel response, but like, it looks like the EU really fucking hates the UK right now. And I think it's like, as far as geopolitical perception, I think it's probably going to be in the EU's interest to make an independent Scotland look good. I don't know. I mean, there is something in that, I think, because like they have made decisions in the past when it came to other countries that had nothing to do with economics. The Greek policy of the EU was just about politics. It was just about humiliating a rogue nation, as far as they saw it. So, yeah, I think. Again, I don't really. I'm not going to make any predictions because I'm not, because you can't. But I don't really see that as a risk, like really as a very big risk.
I think the kind of overall, maybe end on this so we can finally get off unionism and all that. But the two overarching things are like Scotland having a potentially precarious sort of geopolitical situation, especially when the UK and the EU kind of hate each other, and it's going to be difficult to get on with both. And you kind of have to compare that to like good domestic policies or more left-wing ideas. And is that kind of domestic improvement going to outweigh the potential harms of the adverse geopolitical situation we'd be putting ourselves into if we became independent?
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
probably the best way to evaluate whether or not independence would be a good thing.
yeah, I mean, I guess Norway still has a complicated economic situation because they're in the single market, but they're not in the EU, and they do pretty well. And that, yeah, the reason they do well is because being in the single market but not being in the EU is actually quite a bad position to be in. The fact that you have to go by all the rules, but you have no say on what those rules are compared to all the other nations. Yet, most EU countries would like Norway's kind of like the envy of them because their internal policies are so good, like the oil fund and their welfare state and all that. Yeah, I do buy that the way that the SNP are going about it with the EU thing is not a very good move. And it is one of my reservations. I just think I'd rather be in a nation that has the choice to make that decision rather than doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the sovereignty kind of argument, or just Scottish people should be making decisions about Scotland.
Yeah,
It's probably the
I'd
thing
love
that is
freedom.
most
Yeah.
compelling. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been a nice chat, and it's definitely prompted me to
Aye.
think more about it. But yeah, do you have any final memes before we jump off?
Not really. I'm pretty boring.
Well, join the club. All right. Nice
Fantastic.
talking to you, buddy. Bye bye.
All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.
That was actually surprisingly okay. I didn't mind that. Given that I haven't defended Scottish independence in about 6 years. Who is Devilborn? What's their power? Talk about the situation in India. Oh God, yeah, because I want to know. Fuck. Did I see the French soldiers treating a coup? Wait, what? Oh, Devilborn with the 200. What the fuck currency is that? Sorry. That was a bit mean. Let's see. I'm gonna read this dono, and I'm gonna fucking maybe do another call. Indian rupees, is that right? INR. Yeah, Indian rupee. I thought I had loads of money there, but it's actually like £2. Okay. Well, where the fuck is it? Yes, Devilborn with the 200 rupees. Are you interested in talking about the situation in India? Yeah. Let's go. 'Cause it's pretty fucked over there. Devilborn, you're muted, but you're in here. You can hear me. Hello?
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I was just muting your stream.
Oh, that's all right.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm a big fan of your content. I didn't want to take much of your time, but I just wanted to talk about like India and how like I feel like India is on the cusp of like this breakdown of democracy, like it being one of the big. Is my voice fine, or do I need to speak up?
Tell you what, I'm gonna turn you up a little bit on my end.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, I can hear you well.
Okay, fine, great. So like, what do you know about the situation in India? Do you have any idea of a recent
I
situation?
know that, well, besides the COVID thing, I know that, you've elected, I think, a Hindu nationalist who has a history
Yeah.
of pogroms, of being involved in pogroms against Muslims, who
Yeah.
I think is like a COVID denier, effectively.
Not COVID denier, but he. So just one thing from beginning, I would like to say that I'm an atheist.
Mm.
So I don't care about religious stuff that much. But you are right on the nail, like when you say that he is Hindu, like supported by Hindu nationalists. But the other thing is, he has so many supporters that say and even sell products that are very, like, let's say snake oil like type-ish. So, and he doesn't deny that, and that is just one of the things. And like recently the second wave hit India, and we had, like, for 7 days in a row, we like broke the record for number of cases every day. Like, it started
Mm.
by 300,000 and ended like around 500k cases per day. Like, I'm an engineer, and everyone, like, everywhere I call, people are dying, like people we used to know. And its situation is such dire, like people around the age of 30, 32, like they're in very good health and they're dying. And the worst thing is, people who are telling about the ground reality, government just ordered Twitter to remove their tweets. And their justification was they didn't want it to cause panic.
Mm.
So that sort of thing has been going on in India.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty.
And
So
one,
as for the what's I imagine some of the rise in COVID is to do with a lot of Indian cities being very crowded, but like what do you think the main reason is for that's happening with the rise in COVID cases?
yeah, that definitely is. The other reason would be that poverty is a major factor, and people can't, they can't afford to not work.
Yeah.
And then the other situation is, as you know, like, you see anti-maskers, and then you see people who think this is a hoax, and that is same situation in India also. And if you remember, I told you about some of the supporters of Modi, our prime minister. One of that supporter is Ramdev. That person said on every national television news channel, he said that if you use mustard oil, that's a like daily cooking oil, that if you use that in your nostrils, you will not have corona. And he also made one, like, snake oil medicine called Coronil, and it was not approved by the medical association, and he sold that it will save you from corona, and that sort of thing is happening.
Holy shit.
So of course these are the situation that, like, put. And then biggest blast that came for first wave, that sorry, using the wrong word, first wave came from there was this religious gathering of Muslims called Tablighi Jamaat that had like 2,500 people, and people got very mad at that. And then this year we had this religious gathering called Kumbh Mela. So it happened in a holy place called Haridwar, and people in 500,000, like that amount of quantity, people were in very close proximity. Even if you search images for that, you can
Oh, well, you've gone quiet.
understand how this
Hmm.
sorry, I am rambling on.
No,
Wait,
I need to
am I
call
not
you.
audible?
No, you are now. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, I was just saying that okay, so this guy is saying Hindu think cow piss has medical properties, and that is not like far off the truth. Not like majority of population doesn't think that, but there are religious people who say that it cures cancer and even coronavirus. There are actual video proof of that.
That's pretty fucking crazy. So what is, did you say that, I think you were cutting out there. Did you say that it's Modi who's doing this, or just people around him?
Not Modi directly. The problem with Modi is he's not taking action against the people who do this.
Okay, yeah. And I just read as well, like from Al Jazeera, that he's doing the Trump thing. Like he's still doing massive rallies and campaign trail and things like that. Is that true as well? Or
Yes, one
Yeah.
of those rallies were in Bengal, West Bengal, and they had like they didn't follow any restrictions.
yeah. What about so I guess like as far as even without the COVID, I know I've heard that he had connections to pogroms in Kashmir and that he was like what was it that people in his party celebrated the anniversary of the guy who shot Gandhi or something like what's the whole thing in there
Yes.
about?
Okay. So just before we move further, I'm sorry, I don't know the meaning of pogrom. So can you explain it to me so I can better answer that?
I should actually look up the definition, so I'm definitely not like it's basically like
Oh, wait, sorry.
like an attack on an ethnic minority group. So like yeah, that's like a riot. Yeah, like a riot. That's what I thought. Yeah, like a riot or like a
Okay,
massacre
okay.
or an expulsion or
Okay.
like even just like a
Of
massive
of
eviction of like of a minority. Yeah.
minority. Okay. So yeah, I also checked the definition. So for I'll be more careful about answering that. For Kashmir, no, it's not him that much, but for there was one that he was directly involved in, and courts almost found him guilty, but they couldn't. It was out of their power to like properly like do something about it. That was in I think 2001. There was this huge massacre in Gujarat, the state he was chief minister in before he became prime minister. So there was a huge massacre. So he was directly like implicated in that. So for Kashmir, it was actually Kashmir was Jammu and Kashmir was one of the state that is in India, but it is politically like very motivated state, and also as you know, Pakistan, we have a dispute with Pakistan who owns the Kashmir portion. So what happened was Jammu and Kashmir had special rights that nobody from other parts of India can buy. Buy land in Jammu and Kashmir, and also like they couldn't get jobs in Jammu and Kashmir, government jobs. So he removed that, and that was one of their political election promises. He followed through with it. So that is one thing, that his most of the policy issues that he brought up were regarding religion. So the other one, big one, was construction of Ram Mandir. That's like deity, a temple in Ayodhya, the birthplace of Hindu god Ram. So they also passed that through. So that's why, see, the issue that I think is major, that I feel like it's a storm brewing, and this is the calm before that storm, is that there are so many things that has happened in US. I see similarity here. Like if you remember Sandy Hook like shootings, and sorry, should I not say these things? I don't know if
No, you can. It's fine. It's
I don't
fine.
wanna.
It's YouTube. You can say pretty much anything. Yeah.
Okay, so you remember that Alex Jones debacle? Like he said that was a hoax,
Yeah.
and then they said that these guys were tragedy actors,
Yep.
like demonization of these people. And that similar thing has happened in India. Like there was farmer protest earlier. Rihanna also tweeted about that, and they just call them that these guys are anti-national because they are going against our grain of Indian, like Indianness. And then also they are motivated because they deem them Khalistani. That is like a Sikh separatist movement, and it was not that, but still they did that. And most of the thing that I think that this happens is because of the like false narratives that spread, because there is pandemic and we can't see each other face to face, and we are just getting our news from internet. And it's not just internet we are getting from sources, we are just getting it from our friends who share these like I would say like unresearched or fact. These are not fact checked, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what are you thinking about what does the future look like? Because this is just Modi's first term, isn't it?
So I would like, one thing that I would say is, so for Trump, even in at the end, you remember MAGA people, they were saying, like Trumpers were saying, we should remove election. Like they tried so hard to like overturn the election also. So in Asia, there are three major countries. Like there is Russia, then there is China, and then there is India. Like so, we know that Russia has put in and like elections. I mean, they're very sus there. And then China, like Xi Jinping is like controlling everything. India is the only like democratic and secular state, and I feel like we are headed to, because if you listen to the narrative, they're saying Modi should like this is his second term right now. So we
Okay.
have 5-year terms for prime ministers, and this is his second term. He got elected in 2019. He'll be here till 2024, but they're saying like we want to keep him like indefinitely. Like same thing, same narrative you hear in any other like countries, like where they want to make it like more like fascist states. But the why I fear for India is because we are not that educated in terms of this dealing with fascism.
Mhm.
So if we are not prepared for that, I don't know how we're gonna like tackle it.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very worrying state. I mean, obviously, yeah, Trump did not last very long, but yeah, it's not to say that
Yeah,
other
but
countries
that
might
is
not go different
because
ways.
they had much like people like you who like drip into like you dissect every lies they do. Like that's why I recommended your videos to my friends also. I learn these things from you and understand and see these things in my country, and I like feel scared sometimes.
Yeah. So is there not much of an alternative media in India when it comes to? I mean, as far as I last remember, like the media were quite soft on Modi for most of the time recently. But is
Yeah,
that still the case?
just to give you a reference, Modi has not done a single uh, press conference.
Okay.
Can you imagine? In
Yeah.
about 7 years of his uh, prime ministership, he has not done a single press conference, and only interview he gave was to a Bollywood actor. Can
Right.
you imagine that? And that guy asked him, "Is mango your favorite fruit?"
Mm. Yeah. So
It's
he's a
hopeless.
bit of a snowflake, you might say.
I guess. I mean, it's same. Like these things seem very familiar if you look at conservatives of other country. Like they say, left wings are conservative, and then even minor stuff gets them riled up, and they start burning their Koenigs and Nikes.
Yeah, they're just incredibly sensitive, sad little boy. Yeah, unfortunately, and you know, and they have a lot of power these days, so be careful. Anyway,
Yeah.
no, I really appreciate you coming on, and I'm sorry I didn't
Yeah.
respond that much, but I was happy to let you go with it because I don't know much about
Yeah.
this. But yeah,
Yeah. I figured that, but thank you so much for having me, and like keep making your content. We will try to support you as much as possible.
I certainly will, and I'm sure you'll come back soon. All right, have a good one, buddy.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye.
bye. Yeah, fucking hell. It's amazing to think that like how fucking bad Trump was with the press, not giving access to certain journalists who he didn't like and all this kind of shit. But then, you know, Modi hasn't done a single press conference. Oh dear. Let's see. Yeah, this whole thing about the I got sent this. The thing about the UN condemning that British Race Commission is like everywhere. The UN Working Group of Experts on People of African Descent, yeah. The fact that it like that the report did acknowledge that there were racial disparities like everywhere in the UK, It just said that it wasn't anything to do with systemic racism and, culture and shit. Oh well. Look at this video on the coup in France. Whoa. There's a coup in France? Uh-oh. Wait, I'll get it from here. Wait. Oh no. Not good if true. Let's see. Okay.
Warns of a coming civil war. Inflammatory claims in an open letter signed by around 1,500 members of the military, including 25 retired generals, are causing a stir in France. The letter calls for action from the government.
If nothing is done, laxity will continue to spread through our society.
Is that a fucking axe on his shoulder? Oh god. Imagine getting a fucking demanding letter from someone who walks around the street with a fucking axe. Oh dear. Oh no.
Ultimately causing an explosion and the intervention of our active comrades in a perilous mission to protect our civilizational values.
The left-wing leader of the France Unbowed party has called it a coup attempt.
Le fait que des militaires en retraite appellent leurs collègues d'active à faire un putsch, c'est pas une petite chose. Et par conséquent, les autorités de l'État doivent réagir. C'est plus de la politique, c'est carrément un coup d'État.
The French Minister of the Armed Forces is looking to identify the signatories.
It's an insult that is thrown in the face of thousands of military servicemen and women. This act is unacceptable and those involved will face sanctions.
The letter comes 60 years after the failed coup against General de Gaulle, organised by army generals who were against ceding control of former French colony Algeria. Far-right leader Marine Le Pen has backed some of its sentiments.
Je leur réponds que je partage leur affliction, je partage leur constat et que je pense que ces problèmes se règlent par la politique et par un projet politique validé par les Français dans un cadre évidemment démocratique.
Published in a right-wing magazine, the letter targets radical Islam and immigration.
Oh, Le Pen. Nothing to do with me.
Policies, two topics that are likely to loom large in the upcoming 2022 election.
See, the thing is, Le Pen is polling a wee bit higher than Macron and has been for quite a while, which is terrifying because Le Pen is an open fascist. She is not like dog whistling Donald Trump, Nigel Farage. She's a fucking fascist, like massive.
Hungary, a window into the future.
She has blamed climate change issues on immigration. So there is the other side, of course, which is that the fact that she's the most popular candidate doesn't necessarily mean that she'll win. Like, because what happens is they have rounds in French elections, and what happens with what will most likely happen and what happened last time is that these guys all get knocked out, and the people who support them vote for Macron because they want to keep Le Pen out. So Le Pen's kind of on her own compared to, because like Mélenchon, that's 11%. He's the socialist candidate, and they're all going to go Macron just pragmatically. Even though I guess like what Le Pen wants is apathy, right? Left-wing apathy. Second round. Okay, dickheads. I'll look at the second round polls. Fuck you guys. France, second round. Like, I know, like, if there's a 2-point gap in the first round, she's not going to win. Like, she needs a big margin to win. This was like fucking Sargon way back in the day made a huge noise about how Le Pen was going to win because she was ahead in the polls. And she got annihilated. She won like one fucking constituency. So don't worry, but also worry because she's the fact that she's the most popular candidate means a lot of people in France really want to, you know. I think there's a misconception here is that because like your typical image of France is that they are quite left wing when it comes to economics. Like, you know, they've passed laws that like effectively ban planned obsolescence. They have very, very good legislation when it comes to people in relative like middle ground employment. Like, it's illegal for office workers in some industries to get called by their employers when they've clocked out. So they have lots of like rights, and they go on strike like all the fucking time. The problem with that like French revolutionary spirit is that it's always been for the white French people. Like, it's very exclusionary. And that's always been the case, pretty much. You know, one of the reasons that the French surrendered so easily to the Nazis, you know, not just because the Nazi army was like all huge and shit, but also just because like the French weren't behaving too differently at the time. Especially in the 20s. You know, the Dreyfus affair happened in France. It's like it's been a pretty long time coming. Do I think the coup will happen? I don't know. I've watched that one video that's 2 minutes long. What do you want me to say? But I think when it comes to the military in France, the president has like an especially concentrated level of power. So I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I don't know. But you should not take my guesses as your takes. 50,000 subscribers. I'm getting a bit because it's fucking red wine, it's making me feel very heavy, you know? It's illegal to collect statistics on race in France. What the fuck? That is huge if it turns out to be true. What, the sun sets later in Aberdeen than it doesn't? I know. 50,000 subscribers. It's funny because I was preparing like a whole fucking thing with the like the loner box Spotify and all that shit, but yeah, like it was just it just happened so fast. That video, the 4chan video, went mad, and I've got like, I don't know if it's just hitting 50k or just because of that video in particular, but I've had so many requests for like interviews appearing on people's streams. I got invited to a particular AMA next month. That's going to be won't tell you who they are, but it's going to be pretty cool. Like, had a debate with a fucking lunatic anti-trans rights who thinks that one very shady study on racism is like proof that it doesn't exist. Talk about Anprims, degenerates. They want us to be monkeys. Degenerates with a bestiality problem. What's Prager Wu saying? Critical race theory. Do I want to close on critical race theory? Would that be a... I wouldn't mind, because I've studied critical race theory, like not in any like particularly strong capacity, but I've had a look, and I think it would be useful to get involved in this discourse, because I so far haven't. Is this James Lindsay? It is. Oh my God, James Lindsay, the fucking meme artist himself. The guy who goes on Twitter and says that no one on the left wants to debate, and then gets like 40 replies from leftist YouTubers saying, I'll debate you. And he's just like, no, your channel's too small. Oh, what is that? That cartoon avatar? I don't take you seriously if you got a cartoon avatar. I know. So, 5-minute video on what is critical race theory. Yeah. Oh, not on fucking PragerU.com. So what is critical race theory? That's a good question. Well, critical theory is the theory of... So, okay, I'll give you the really dumb fuck, like, reductive definition of it. Is that when you do sociology, at the very beginning, you're taught about how, you know, society... Your first impression of society, like your common sense functionalist impression of society, is that you have all these institutions. You have someone who makes the bread. You have you have someone who does the fields. You have the cops. You have the firefighters, and they all interdepend on each other. You know, this bone's connected to that bone, all kind of harmoniously creating the whole that is greater than its parts, society, right? Critical theory examines how, although this is potentially true, the idea that it's mutually beneficial is not true. That society, as much being cooperation, is also a system of conflict, of groups discriminating against other groups, of groups exploiting other groups, of some groups having a harder time than others. So Marxism is critical theory in that society is both cooperative and conflict-based. It doesn't disprove the former. It's just another aspect of the theory. Because the thing with sociological theory is that, say there's a room of 20 people, and you ask all 20 people to write down what they say. Or what they see in the room. Sorry. They'll all give you a different answer. Some people will comment on the person sitting in front of them and say, that's what I see. Some people will write about the architecture of the room. Some people will write about the aesthetic of the room. Some people will write about all the people surrounding them. Some people will talk about the desk that's in front of them. All this shit, right? Hear from Vosh. Yeah. So, people will give all these different perspectives, and none of them are wrong, unless someone's saying, like, empirically false shit about the room. They're all correct. They're just different perspectives. By the same token, something like functional theory and conflict theory are different perspectives of the same thing. There are ways in which society is very cooperative, you know. Most businesses are interdependent. And it's also conflict-based. Some people get killed for no reason, for political reason, other than like politics. Some people get displaced for political reasons. Some people in society get paid a fuck ton. Some people starve. You know, conflict theory. Neither of them are false. And one of those conflict theories or critical theories is race theory, which basically looks at society through the lens of racial disparity. How is the law potentially racist? How is the education system potentially treating different racial groups? How is culture? KCAD with the Canadian $25. Is that, am I right there? Congratulations on 50K. So happy for your growth. Hey, growth. Thank you. Thank you so much. No, it's going to be buried around there somewhere, I think. Otherwise, I don't know at the moment. So, we know this. We know that societies can have conflict and cooperation. And as for critical race theory, something that just focuses on the ways that racial disparities can work at systemic levels, okay, whether it can be in culture, yeah, or the legal system, or the welfare state, or anything, any aspect of society can produce racially unfair or racially antagonistic outcomes. So, if you are one of those motherfuckers who says, oh, these hate crime laws. So, if you attack a white person and say, fuck you, white person, that's a crime. But if I attack a black person and say, fuck you, black person, that's a hate crime. This is discrimination against white people. That's a dumb take. You know what it also is? It's critical race theory. That is you attempting, I say attempting in a very key word there, but it is you attempting to do critical race theory. If you want to be a bit more nuanced, you can say affirmative action, very good idea, gets botched all the time by education institutions and corporations, can often, I'm not even say often, can discriminate against, or can discriminate against Asians, it can discriminate against, it can even sometimes discriminate against black people, it can sometimes discriminate against white people. There's probably happened once or twice where a white person was more deserving of a job than a black person, but affirmative action done badly by some dumb fuck like HR, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if a story like that existed. But you commenting on that, and you putting it down to the law and culture, is critical race theory. Everyone does critical race theory. You can draw right-wing conclusions from it, you can draw left-wing conclusions from it. So why does the right not like it if they do it all the time? Well, it's because when academics do it, they tend to find that the examples I gave of how hate crime legislation is anti-white or how affirmative action is anti-white, it's just not very substantial compared to the plethora, the myriad ways that ethnic minorities are subjected to systemic racism. That's why they don't like it. They don't like the conclusions. They're fine with critical race theory. They just don't like it when it's studied in a structured and meaningful way, because it doesn't draw the same conclusions that they do. And so Trump tried to ban it. I don't even, free speech. And it's just a fucking boogeyman of right-wingers. Like, they fucking hate critical race theory. Let's find out why.
Have you heard about critical race theory?
Yeah.
I'm guessing you probably have.
Yeah.
It has already insinuated itself into many institutions and is making rapid progress into others. If it takes hold, it will completely change the very nature of America and the way you live.
Oh no.
Critical race theory holds that the most important thing about you is your race.
No. See why I primed you guys with that example of 20 people in a room each saying what they see? Because no one opinion about the room and what they see is more important than the other. If you're a conflict theorist when it comes to society, that does not mean you find conflict more important than cooperation. Societies can have both conflict and cooperation. And just because you spend 5 years studying and working on or doing a PhD on fucking conflict, it doesn't mean that you think conflict is the most important thing. So no. Citation? Hey, James Lindsay? The left won't debate. Critical race theory, they'll say this a lot. You ever hear people say that, like, they'll talk about the tenets of critical race theory? Like it's some kind of fucking, like it's some kind of codex inscribed with rules and fucking unchangeable customs. That's not what it is. So no, it does not hold that the most important thing about you is race. It is just the study of race in society.
The color of your skin, that's who you are. Not your behavior, not your values, not your environment. Your race.
Your environment. Critical race theory is about how the environment produces. What? Critical race theory is about how the environment treats different racial groups. Why did they have to add the environment? Fuck's sake.
In critical race theory, if you are a member of a minoritized racial group, their term, not mine, you are a victim of a system that is rigged against you, a system that doesn't want you to succeed.
Oh.
On the other hand, if your race is privileged, you're an exploiter, whether you intend to be or not.
I haven't seen this either, right? Like, so who are some critical race theorists? Because I've only read a handful of them, but that's more than James Lindsay's read. Derek Bell, Patricia J. Williams, Kimberly Crenshaw. Hey, I did a video on Kimberly Crenshaw. Remember that? I don't recall Kimberly Crenshaw saying that white people are all exploiters, or even that they're all privileged. I just haven't seen that.
Critical race theory begins from the assumption that racism occurs in all interactions.
So I know exactly where they got this idea from. Is that that's probably a very crude take on microaggressions. Again, not every interaction is. You'll notice that they won't source anything when they say this, by the way. This is just them looking at an invisible person in the room and speaking to it. Yeah, the intersectionality video that was critical race theory. Because she was looking at the way that black women, particularly black victims of sexual assault and domestic abuse, are not as likely to be vindicated or assisted by the justice system and by the state, and even by crisis institutions, than white women are, which is true. Because even if black areas are given the same amount of funding as white areas, the problem there is that black women, when it comes to domestic abuse, have unique problems, like an issue with alternative housing. Like, they modeled crisis centers based on white victims in America for a very long time. And what that meant was most white victims did not have a problem with finding another place to go when they were leaving their abusers. So it was seen as a kind of formality. They would ask, where you'd come from and whether you needed a place, and they would allocate a very small amount of funding to that. However, when you took the same policy into black neighborhoods that have a history of housing discrimination, then black sexual assault victims or domestic abuse victims, a high proportion of them had no alternative accommodation. So they both aimed to provide alternative accommodation to those who need it. It's just that it was modeled on people who didn't need it that much. So in an area where people needed it a lot, they didn't get it. Hence, critical race theory.
To see how this works, consider this thought experiment. Imagine you own a shop and two customers enter at the same time, one white and one black. Who do you help first? If you help the black person first, critical race theory would say you did so because you don't trust black people to be left alone in your store.
Wait, what? What the fuck? How fucking... That is the worst fucking example. Holy shit. Critical race theory would analyze whether or not a black or a white person gets served first in a shop. What? Discord links in the description, Ryan Shields. What the fuck? This is the thing about PragerU, though, is like, they don't even try. Like, where's this going? What happens if you serve a white person first? Is it because you're giving them priority?
That's racist.
Oh.
If you help the white person first instead, critical race theory would say you did so because you think blacks are second-class citizens.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
racist
okay.
too.
Fucking hell. Is that what critical race theory studies? Did Kimberly Crenshaw do an essay on why black women get served second? What the fuck? Why is it the case that I could give a better example than that? Why don't they just do the fucking, oh, if you attack a black guy, that's a hate crime. But if you attack a white guy, that's also, or maybe speak their language a bit more. If a white guy is railing your wife and you attack him, that's a crime. But if a black guy is railing your wife with his 12-inch fucking Alabama black snake, that's a hate crime, and that's racism against white people. Why don't they just say that? Fucking hell. Why did they just have to make up the worst possible example? And I think there's a theory on this. Isn't there the theory that people who are involved in scams will deliberately fill their sort of like pyramid schemes and stuff, will deliberately fill them with spelling mistakes and like bad patter because... What? Yeah. Yeah, because they want the people... They don't want people who are capable of thought in their audience. Yeah, it's just their way of saying, like, only fucking idiots need apply. Is that what PragerU are doing? Are they doing the Nigerian email scam thing? Maybe. This is absolutely as well why, like, those fucking loan sharks always made themselves look dodgy. You don't notice that? The people who are like the gold fucking people on those weird shops in the high street, like they make themselves look like scams because they don't want suspicious people or conscientious people even entering the shop. Is that what PragerU's doing with this example? With the worst straw man you could ever possibly make. Okay.
That's critical race theory.
Oh, yeah.
It can find racism in anything, even if it has to read your mind to do it. Critical race theory is a uniquely...
I'm pretty sure it was a critical race theorist where I read, I think it was Du Bois? I can't remember. Don't know how you pronounce it. But I'm pretty sure that was where I read that we're not interested in what people are thinking. It's just the consequences of their behavior. What's in their brain what's in their mind doesn't really matter. I'm pretty sure I read that from a critical race theorist. And even, okay, if I didn't, then they definitely behave in that way. Critical race theory, as far as I know, looks at outcomes, not at not at mind reading.
American invention. Brewed up at Harvard Law School in the 70s.
That's kind of true, although it does stem from conflict theory. Oh, whatever. I don't care about where it came from.
Now part of the academic and media mainstream. It is also uniquely...
Do you even read chat? Or are we just... Of course I read the chat. Fuck you. I love all of you equally. I even read Discord chat. Yeah. Systemic racism is when you... Systemic racism is when you don't let black people jump the queue.
Un-American, because it rejects the core tenets of the American classically liberal Judeo-Christian value system.
That's a lot of mutually exclusive thing. Okay.
It turns the bedrock American idea upside down. Here it is in the words of Richard Delgado and Jean Stefanczyk, two leading proponents. Critical race theory questions the very foundations of the liberal order.
Okay. Yeah. What's wrong with that?
Including equality theory, legal reasoning, Enlightenment rationalism, and the neutral principles of constitutional law. It does this because critical race theory proponents assume racism is present everywhere and always, and they look for it critically until they find it.
Fuck. Oh, God. Does he know what critically means? James Lindsay. Why does every PragerU guest look really fucking weird as well? Because the thing with James Lindsay is he posts on Twitter all the time. And he does look like it's kind of deadened him behind the eyes. Critical race theory is when you see racism and you look at things critically to find the racism. What the fuck? That quote. I can't comment on that quote really because I don't know the context.
And they always find it. It has to be there because that's how the imperial European powers and then America set things up. Here, as in all dangerous academic theories, there is a kernel of truth.
Dangerous academic theories. Oh, what's the truth in critical race theory, James Lindsay?
Human beings were not preoccupied with race until the 16th century, when Europeans began to explore and then colonize other parts of the world.
Okay.
Drawing distinctions between the races reached its peak in the 19th century with the widespread use of slave labor in North and South America.
Okay.
No one denies this. But since then, the Western world, and most especially America, has spent a lot of time, money, and blood breaking free of its racist past. It's been a rocky...
Oh, yeah, because racism's illegal now. Yeah, again, that thing about equality, right? I think one of the things was that the critical race theorists were arguing against constitutional equality. Could that not have been in reference to the same argument that James Lindsay is making as what was made in the civil rights movement? Could that not be in reference to the fact that before the Civil Rights Act, the law was separate but equal? Those people would have said there's not racism because separate but equal. That was an argument back then as well. Fuck's sake.
Road for sure, but great progress has been made. Critical race theory says all this progress is a mirage. Racism never died, never even faded a little bit. It just
I'm pretty sure most people are fine with the idea that it faded a little bit. Okay.
hid itself better.
Yeah. Okay.
Critical race theory.
There's actually one good bit of evidence for why it did hide itself better. Is that membership of things like the Klan and other racial hate groups have all been in declines for this entire century, since the 2000s. But the number of recorded hate incidents have either stayed the same or increased. So yeah, that is quite clear that racism does hide itself better. What, do you think everyone just changed their minds?
Therefore, is not a continuation of the civil rights movement. It is in fact a repudiation of it. To critical race theorists, Martin Luther King was both wrong and naive.
No.
White Americans can never judge blacks by the content of their character. They can only judge them, always unfavorably, consciously, or
Always that one quote. Martin Luther King supported affirmative action. James Lindsay. Why not that quote? Imagine just, oh God, being Martin Luther King in your grave, just constantly being stomped on by these people. Like, when Martin Luther King died, or like a week before he died, most white Americans had a negative view of him. It's always the case. And actually, this is kind of the reason that, like, a good indication that progressives, in a way, always win, you know? Like, because they'll oppose this shit until the bitter end, until it happens. Then when it happens, they'll say they were on your side all along, and oh wait, look at this new thing. That's their playbook every single time. What's happening right now with the trans thing is all the arguments that used to get used against gay people are being targeted towards trans people. It's all the same arguments. Because all the same people who opposed gay rights lost, and now they're going, oh wait, what about the transes? Oh, but we were always on your side when it came to the gays. No problem. Hey, I have no problem with the gays, but trans women are going into the women's prisons and raping all the women. Yeah, like.
Or unconsciously, by the color of their skin. Ironically, not since the Aryan obsession in Germany in the 1930s and 1940s, or South African apartheid in the second half of the 20th century, has the social movement been so obsessed with race. Critical race theory is then in a...
Yeah, that whole race blind bullshit. Okay. Okay.
very real sense, a counter-American revolution. But that's a positive, not a negative to those who subscribe to the theory. The American experiment was given a 400-year tryout, and it doesn't work. So let's scrap it. That's what they believe. Is that what you believe? I'm going to guess that most of you don't. So how do we stop critical race theory before it infects the brains of too many decent Americans?
Infects the brains? Oh, no. What do these people think critical race theory is? Do they actually think it's like this kind of slab of points? Like what? Like the critical race theory commandments, number 1. If there's a black and a white person in your shop and you serve the white person first, it's because you are racist. If you serve the black person first, it's because you are racist. Number 2, America has failed. Get rid of it. Number 3, fucking Martin Luther King, bad. Didn't do... Number 4, there is no such thing as an individual. Yeah. Is this really like no one knows what critical race theory is. It's so fucking weird how they just managed to conjure up this boogeyman. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised because they've been doing this with Marxism for 200 fucking years.
Americans, especially young people, and turns us into something we have never been and shouldn't ever want to be. The answer is simple. Refuse to accept it. Don't be intimidated by the heads I win, tails you lose logic of this self-destructive, America-hating, anti-reality idea.
That's a lot of adjectives.
Don't be bullied into thinking that you're racist when you know you're not, or that you're a victim when you know you're not.
Really? Stop thinking of yourself as a victim. That would be handy right now.
Defend yourself.
Where can I learn about critical race theory? You probably already do. When you study systemic racism, you're doing critical race theory. Look up Kimberly Crenshaw's 2 essays on intersectionality. They are, incidentally, they are linked in the description of my intersectionality video. You'll find them there. Like, that's a really good example of critical race theory.
While you still can.
Incidentally, one that doesn't actually put skin color on top of everything else because it looks at the intersection between race and gender.
I'm James Lindsay, founder of New Discourses for Prager University.
James Lindsay. My wonderful square-shaped friend. Where are we? See, he's doing this all the time. 5 ugly truths about critical race theory. Yes, it's racist. Uh-oh. Yes, it says all white people are racist. What the fuck? No, it doesn't continue the civil rights. Okay. Yes, it's Marxian, not specifically Marxist. What? What's the difference? What? No, it isn't an analytical tool. That was from 45 minutes ago. Still on it, James Lindsay. Still working to say fucking. What else we got? 2 hours ago, I vote for him to be king. Okay. Would not surprise me if this guy was. Wouldn't surprise me if most of the people were monarchists. Big mad, I tell you. Oh, got him again. Yeah, he does a lot of this. Whoa! Told you though. Yeah, okay. Whoa! Iron Law of Project. Lincoln Project. Lincoln Projection. He's a fucking algorithm, this guy. Iron Law of Woke Production. He's so fucking like how much of a fucking NPC do you have to? Oh, Domnall, you're gonna need to tell me the how to phonetically pronounce your name. McGregor, I'm gonna say pledge your allegiance to the tenets of CRT. Congrats on the 50K. Well, yes. Because as we all know, if there's one thing I've learned from being a 50,000 subscriber channel on YouTube, it's that if there's a black and white person in your shop, whichever one you choose to serve first will make you a racist. This has been a good stream. 3.5 hours. Okay, I think there was one debate left and then we are fucking off because I'm starting to run out of fuel. What's this? Guy who wants to speak about Czechia? What the fuck is like? That's like between Chechnya and the Czech Republic, or what? No, fuck off. No, I can't do it. It's wait, what? There's someone called Copeland in my. Okay, let's do it. I like their avatar. Thoughts on Come Town and Destiny? I like Destiny. He's all right. He's not very pleasant, but he's funny, you know. I like it when he cackles. Phallic thoughts on oh yeah, you already asked me that, sorry. See, this is why I need to get off the stream. Okay, fuck. Let's go. Copeland. You're on. You hear me?
Okay, hello.
Hello, how's it going?
I'm fine. I understand. Oh, sorry. Let me just. Okay. I understand Czechia. It's a new change. I think most people still, or a lot of people still call us Czechoslovakia right now.
Oh, is Czechia just the name for the Czech Republic and Slovakia together?
No.
Or it's
Only.
just yeah, okay.
But like most countries have been dropping the republic part.
Okay.
People's Democratic Republic.
Have you turned
So
into a monarchy?
It's like a. No. We're still
Okay.
the same. It's just the name has changed.
Cool.
Anyway, yeah, it's just like really frustrating being a leftist here because we have a prime minister he owns the biggest like agricultural conglomerate trust in the country, but he's also the prime minister, which already is like already should basically make everyone want him to quit or resign. But he's been in power for like 2 terms now, and people think that his government is a leftist government because before 1999, when we still had so-called communism, he like briefly cooperated with the secret police just for the benefits that conferred at the time, because just he is an opportunist. He does whatever is beneficial for him. And now that he's a fucking like multiple billionaire, like not quite the richest person in the country, but close, and the prime minister, people apply his like past history as like a communist secret police collaborator and think of his government as a leftist government, despite the fact that he's this like huge billionaire. And
what's this guy's name?
It's like Andrej Babiš.
Prime minister, is he a president?
Prime minister. The president is a whole different story. Basically, our prime minister and our president are like the 2 halves of Donald Trump. Like Babiš is the like corrupt billionaire, weirdly populist. He's not quite as like culturally shitty as Trump, but he's like that businessman side. And then Zeman, the president, is like the weird old man who rambles off topic and like and is mostly just embarrassing. And we had them both before Trump came along, so we're like we had Trump before it was cool.
Yeah, that's happened a lot around Europe as well. Like I know Ukraine, didn't they elect a comedian or something? And Orban obviously came before Trump. So yeah, it's pretty. Was this the same guy that invited Tommy Robinson to come over and speak about terrorism or something? Wasn't because he was invited to the house at one point.
I know we've had people try to invite Tommy Robinson here, but I don't think if it was anyone that high up.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
Yeah. We also have like weird like QAnon types here, because like the country itself is like very atheist, but there's still like a thriving kind of esoteric and like weirdo community. And they've taken to QAnon stuff like fucking flies to vinegar. Like they it's actually weird how quickly it got on, especially with the start of the pandemic. Like just immediately people started like saying like, oh, what is this? Like why are we doing all this for a flu? And ran off into like this pre-existing conspiracy ecosystem. There's like so much content there for people to consume that they just like once they get started going down this like rabbit hole, they just dig themselves in deeper and deeper. And at this point, even though we're mostly like over the pandemic at this point, I mean, we still have like kind of a high case count, but like it's going down now. They're still like now they're onto the vaccine stuff and like don't let your kids be tested at schools because they're having microchips inserted into their brains and stuff. But thankfully there's hope, because now we have like another bit of weird, but thankfully not as awful political party on the rise, which is the Pirates, which are now actually quite like convincingly in the lead in basically all of the polls. And they basically started like this whole pirate party movement. I don't think they're more popular anywhere else. Like they're the most popular here, like more than anywhere else. But it started back when the like the Pirate Bay service got raided, and it just like spawned a bunch of these like little like digital freedom, copyright reform, internet, like new internet parties all over Europe. But here it somehow caught on, and yeah, like now we have a basically like PM in waiting who's this like young cool. I mean, like the communism broke everyone's brains, so like anything like left of lukewarm social democracy is considered like full-on communism here. But And he also, like, when he was younger, he went to a couple like Antifa protests. So there's like photos of him with an Antifa flag, and it's like to me that's a great thing that I like much like admire him for. But a lot of people treat it as if that's like a display of allegiance to like a international terrorist group. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like when you like express support for Palestine, people say you're supporting Hamas, like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's
of course.
like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's really
It's
frustrating.
frustrating.
It's such a shame for all those like ex-Soviet countries, like just what it did to them and the way that the
Yeah.
population still haven't really recovered from. I guess like you could even say, I don't know, be definitely for a different time, but there's definitely an argument that the EU doesn't really help with that either. Like it's kind of their job to keep less developed countries in that position. But yeah, shit. I mean, what about you? What are your thoughts for the future of Czechia then?
Well, I mean, assuming the trend holds, we're in for like a at least socially progressive, maybe not, because the pirates are not that leftist to begin with, and right now they're in an alliance with these like centrist, independent kind of agglomerate party. So I don't really have much hope for like a real leftist economic policy, but there might be like social. Maybe we'll legalize weed for once. For one thing.
Yeah, well, given the
yeah, I
amount
mean,
of
just
fucking
like in general,
fascists who are
general
okay with that,
perspective.
yeah.
Yeah, and they're I mean, basically, like much like with Trump, like the main part of the job is just going to be to like remove all of the wrath that's like gotten into all of the like wheels of the machine of state over the last few years of this like billionaire basically making the country into his own like an additional part of his existing money making machine. But
Yeah.
I have hope that they're going to be able to do that. So, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the contribution and thank you for coming on. Do you have any final means before I go? Because I'm definitely going to be too drunk to do this stream in a wee minute. So.
Trans rights.
Yeah. All
And-
right. Nice one,
And
buddy.
critical race theory is good, actually.
It certainly is. I know. Not enough people are talking about this. All right, buddy. Thanks so much for coming on. Have a
Okay.
good one.
Yep, no problem.
Whatever.
See ya. Thanks for having me on.
I just realized I've forgotten to ask the pronouns of everyone barring the first guest. Oh well, I'll get better at doing that. Fucking idiot box. Oh, thank you.
No worries.
Nice shirt. Where'd you get it?
Your wardrobe?
Okay. Listen the fuck up, you little buzzards. This has been a good stream. Thank you all for celebrating the 50,000 subscribers with me. I'm very hungry and starting to get a little bit droopy. So, all that said, I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for all the donos. I can't believe I guess the 50K thing is good. Maybe I'll have a 50K sub stream every day. Hey, maybe I'll have a 51K and just get loads of donos then as well. You guys are amazing. I'm so blessed. And yes, there will be more. There will be new things happening soon. The Loner Boxify Spotify is coming up soon and other things to go with it. So, did I gain like 150 subs during this stream? Holy shit. Huge. That's huge if it turns out to be true. Of course I'll save the VOD to the channel. Yeah, it'll go in the stream VODs like everywhere else. Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah, I'm on top of it. Hey. Don't you worry. Do a musical gear vid. No, there's nothing more embarrassing than a fucking musical gear vid. I know I just made a video about how I took race realism smugly to a biology teacher, but What, like, hey, this is my fuzz pedal. I really like the analog circuitry in here. I put it in the freezer just because that complements the analog tone of this particular pedal. A lot of people don't know that. No. No. Done. No more of that. All right. And I know I did say feet at 50K, so maybe 100K, you know, maybe we'll do it 100K. Maybe. Okay. I love you all. I hope you have a good evening. Go and do critical race theory, and always remember that if you are walking down the street and there is a black person opposite you and you cross the road, you are racist.